Thinking Tackle Podcast.
Welcome to the Thinking Tackle Podcast. Joining me today in the studio is Andrew Ellis. Now, Andrew graduated from Sparsholt College in 1993, the same era as Simon Scott, Chris Blunt and Viv Shears. Now, together, this group have helped provide us with some of the best fish and fisheries around today. After graduating from college, Andrew set up his own business, AE Fisheries, a fish management company. He works across the UK and Europe with a wide range of different clients and once even appeared on an episode of Escape to the Chateau. He was recently appointed as one of the directors of the Carp Society and helped create their flourishing new stock ponds, which hopefully will provide us with some great fishing for years to come. Andrew Ellis, we're live. Welcome to the podcast. Why are you looking at me?
Very happy to be here. Wow, that was epic. And it was only in one take.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, I get the hang of that really quickly.
It's consummate professional. Brilliant stuff.
How many goes was that?
Well, we counted beforehand. It's about 15 minutes of footage. It's going to make a great highlight reel for our next YouTube clip.
Yeah, definitely.
That's going to go up on YouTube, isn't it? Or on Instagram or something, Tobe, isn't
All
it?
of the above, mate.
Nice. And yeah, it'll be good fun.
Isn't it a delight to watch some real professionals at work?
Yes, it's very funny, actually. Very funny. I wish I could have recorded it and sent it to the boys. They'd have found that.
Have you got enough memory on your phone?
I don't know, actually. That's a good point. But,
Right, anyway, Andrew, after that big introduction, I hope we got the words right and everything. We always ask our guests for a gift at the start of the show. Have you got anything lovely for us?
I have. I didn't know about this, and a friend of mine, as soon as I told him I was going to do this, he said, "Oh, what are you going to take in?" I said, "What do you mean?" So I watched a few and realised that I had to bring some. So I got 3 shelves in my little office, and it basically looks like this. So I pretty much just shoved a load of stuff in. So this is from the.
Right, well, let's lift this up for the camera there.
It's an original Brian Mills.
Do you want me to hold that?
Yeah, hold it to middle camera, mate.
Thank you very much.
It's an original Brian Mills pencil drawing, and I got it at an auction at the Carp Society for I think it was last year or the year before.
It's lovely, that.
Yeah, it's just
really nice.
And then also
the bobbler.
Yeah.
Nice linear, that one, isn't it?
And then I literally just grabbed stuff off the shelf. So this is a penguin I got in Africa. South Africa. I love penguins because they look stupid when they're on land, but they're really, really good at fishing.
Yes, that's
kind of like
true,
me,
actually.
really. So I got that, and it's made by these people in great poverty, and they sit there all day and they find bits of wire, and then all they get is beads like this, and they sit there in the streets and do them.
Let's have a look at that. So we've got a penguin here. That's pretty intricate, that as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
That would take a while to.
Yeah, I just like it. It's but penguins. I've got a thing about penguins. They're pretty awesome. They look so stupid when they're walking around. Yeah. They look clumsy, daft, but you get them in the water and they're like tuna. They're fast. They're amazing at fishing. I don't know. I've always had a fascination with penguins. Really.
We haven't had a penguin before, Tobe.
Exactly. Well, I thought something different. This is a netting needle. So this is what we obviously repair our nets with. This is a very fine mesh netting needle. So it's just like the same what they'd use at sea for mending nets. So I thought that's something a little bit different as well. And then the other stuff, just merch really. Mugs. One of my mugs, one of Ben's mugs. Oh, this is nice. You can have this.
Blimey, we got multiple gifts here.
To be honest, I've got a very small house, and this is quite a good excuse to get rid of some stuff.
Yeah, just dump it in our studio.
Well, this is quite good. Look, this is
that's nice.
A tiny little reel that works.
Right.
And I got given this many, many years ago by a mate.
That's pretty cool, actually.
That is really cool,
Have you
isn't
seen
it?
one of them before?
No.
Yeah, it's worth taking
Let's
all the
have a
other
look at
rubbish just
Yeah.
for that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's great.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I wonder what sort of reel that is. What is it, like a...
That reel would be perfect for Ali, wouldn't it? Perfect size.
What are you trying to say?
And on the same shelf, there was one, so it's very useful, one cufflink, a perch cufflink. So you've either got to have the lot or none.
No, we'll take the lot, won't we?
Excellent. Job done. There we are.
Thank you very much, mate. Well, that will take pride of place in the studio and hopefully in our display cabinets in when we get those all sorted as well. It's nice to have some different gifts as well.
Yeah. Carpy penguin.
Thank you very much. Right, as I alluded to at the start of the podcast, we mentioned the sort of the Sparsholt golden generation, and you sort of came from that sort of generation. Is it true to say?
Yeah, I mean that was it. I don't know why. I mean, it just sort of happened. I think a lot of it was we had really good lecturers at the time. I mean, I think I think it has changed down there an awful lot over the years. It's got a lot more. I think it all comes down to money and putting bums on seats, to be perfectly honest. But when we were there, we had really, really good lecturers, and they were all people who worked in the industry, so you had a lot of respect for them anyway, and some real characters as well. And
talk about some characters in that picture.
Is this a reunion that we're looking at?
That was a reunion. That was a reunion.
There's always one that has to put his middle finger up, isn't there?
Yep, that's Chris.
Ruin it.
That's Chris. Dan to the left of Chris. He's now a lecturer at Plumpton College, who do fishery management as well, and we have a lot of their students doing bits and pieces of work as and when we can. And just Philip there at the front, and a couple of the other lads. But it's we did. That was a long time ago. Even then, I can't remember how long ago. My time, I have no idea. I think something that happened 10 minutes ago is 10 years. It's ridiculous. But yeah, we had a great time. We all went out and went to the same pubs we did when we were like kids, and got as drunk as we did when we were kids, and it was quite fun. But the whole Golden Generation thing was amazing. I got wind of that. I was in this magazine, and they asked me to do some stuff, and it came out, and I was like, that's amazing. Just to be mentioned, with those guys is a real honour, really. I've just been really, really lucky, to be honest. I mean, I've got a real passion for what I do, but to be things just keep happening in my career that I'm really fortunate about, really. But Sparsholt was brilliant. It's the first time, obviously, when you're that young and you go away. I was lucky. I already had some experience under my belt in course fishing, whereas back then most people, it's a long time ago, most of the kids on the course were their work experience, their background was in trout. And mine, in Suffolk, where I'm from originally, I was working for a fishery company who basically bought and sold a lot of fish, and had quite a lot of little businesses, all fishery related businesses, and I learnt an awful lot when I was very, very young, mainly about putting up with being cold.
What yes, well, you got to learn that pretty quickly, and you learn how thick-skinned you are and resilient to the cold you are. Why do you think that period was it just the right time when carp fishing was starting to come into fruition, or? Yeah,
I mean, the safe bet when we left college when we were kids would be to go and work for the Environment Agency, which was the National Rivers Authority back then. That was a kind of a safe bet. Or go to Scotland and go trout salmon farming, and there was jobs like that. There wasn't huge amounts of jobs doing anything else. So most lads either didn't get a fishery management job, or they went up north trout farming, or they, a few did. And obviously Steve Ringer was there, and myself, and Viv, obviously. I don't know. It just sort of fell into it. I mean, I already knew I was going to get a job. I was offered a job already, even when I went to college, which was great, because I didn't have any interest in salmonid farming. But you say that, but at the same time, when you learn about fishery management and fish farming and stuff, it's a good basis for learning. It's a good grounding, really. So, but the whole carp farming was a very, very tiny part of the whole course. And Chris Seagrave, who obviously was very influential, who had a fish farm still. I think they've still got it. I'm not too sure. I'm a bit out of touch with what goes on down there now, but. They had a really good fish farm down there, and you go and do bits of work experience down there. So, but yeah, I mean, like I say, I think I was the only person, maybe one other guy who worked in the ornamental trade, and we were kids, we were 17 years old. That my background was in coarse fish. I'd done loads of seine netting, and been out and caught loads of fish, and seen more fish than anyone else on the course, netting Grafham and Rutland waters when I was a kid, and it was just amazing. That's what triggered me into.
You find a lot of people they get into that because they're carp anglers, and they think, and it's a longevity of students there. Do you see a lot of people disappear?
Oh God, yeah. It's honestly, it's a real shame. I mean, there's the courses are brilliant. It sorted me right out going there. It really did. I found something I absolutely loved, and academically I was never the brightest, but I absolutely loved just being there and doing it. But a lot of the kids, and since I've left there, and since I've done what I've been doing up till then, I've taken on students as and when I can, on 3 and 3 week placements, and the guys who work for me, they're all ex-Sparsholt students. But a lot of them they're not up to it. They're just a bit like, they want to go fishing all the time and do stuff like this, but they don't want to put the work in to get there. They don't want to do any of that. They think they should be having everything right now, and it's a real shame, because the amount of students I've had over the years, and some of them have been great, but the percentage is tiny. You're talking probably 7 or 8 out of 50 or 60 that you'd go, okay, he's worth a shot, you know. And they're the one, and those 7 or 8 have all got full-time jobs in fishery management now.
Would you only employ people through the colleges? Is that the only avenue for you? I mean, is the college route into that business?
I think it shows a bit of willing, to be honest. I think no, not at all. The problem is you get, as soon as you put anything online now, I'd love your job, mate. Here's a job. And I always say the same thing. I ask them to send a CV, and you get, what's a CV? He's like, you know, it's you got to have a little bit about you. It's like, or my mum will send you a letter, and you just the guys that I've always had that have been worth sticking with. They just turn up on time, and they just do the work. You can teach them how you want to do things, and but yeah, they've all been to college. Actually, the latest guy, Matt, he was heavily into pheasants, farming pheasants. Went to Italy, I think, and did some pheasant rearing and all sorts of stuff to do with. But it's all that same sort of things, livestock management. And he studied it at college, countryside management, that sort of thing. But he turns up and he grafts. And that is what the job is at the end of the day. It's all the other stuff that comes with it, which is great fun and lovely, but you earn that and you graft to get to those places. You don't get given those things straight away. And even if you do, you don't deserve it, and you probably don't appreciate anything like that. But yeah, getting them to turn up on time is the first hurdle. And young Dave, I think he's 21 now, he acts like a 5-year-old sometimes, but he has come into his own in the last sort of 18 months really. Because to start with, and we used to put jokey videos online, #Dave's late, that sort of thing, and wind him up about it. But he's quite delicate, and you have to tread around him very carefully. But I'm not very good at that sort of thing, and I treat everybody the same. And you just sort of say, well, don't bother turning up then, But at the end of the day, you kind of have to be like that. But once you get a strong team around you, there's nothing better, And we get on, we have a laugh, and I'm lucky to have Ben. All winter, he works for me 10 years now in the winters, and he's off doing his own thing in the summer now with his pellets and everything else. So yeah, it's great. I'm really blessed having a good team around me, and we crack on. We do have fun, but there's the work is the priority, and you turn up and we're always on time, and that's what's important, and the guys care about the job as much as I do now.
Do you think the college now, because there are so many people getting into this now, is it still likely to churn out the likes of yourself, Simon, Scotch, those sort of, is there enough work to go around nowadays?
There's more jobs in the industry than there was when we were there, definitely, and the industry's changed an awful lot, but there's a lot more fisheries now in the UK and in Europe. It's a bigger industry now in that respect, in as much as job-wise, well, you've only got to look at the amount of fishing on TV now compared to then, and the amount of employees in this building. Those sort of things are relevant, because when we were there was very little of that. And like I say, a lot of it was salmonid based. It wasn't cyprinid, coarse fish. It was all trout and salmon farming. Most of it was. So no, I think there's definitely. I think I always tell kids, when we see them, when you're fishing in bits and pieces. Yeah, go to college. They always say, what's the best thing to do? Get experience, go to college, because it's a good networking thing. You'll meet a lot of the right sort of people, and like I say, Sparsholt's good, but it's not the only place to study anymore. I think we were lucky at the time. We had great lecturers, and we wanted to be there. I wasn't actually supposed to be on the. I went to go on a 1-year course because I didn't do that well at school academically. So I was only supposed to go on a 1-year course for the younger kids, but they asked, because my old boss at the time had sent them a nice a nice reference. They said, well, you can go on the other one if you want. So I was on cloud 9.
We said the other day, didn't we? When I was at school, we had the old careers advisors come into the school, and this is straight up. They asked me what I wanted to do with my life, and it was fisheries management. So that was the same sort of thing for you, was it, growing up?
That's all I wanted to do, yeah. Well, I wanted to be a policeman because my dad was, and he was having a whale of a time when I was a kid. He was on the police diving unit for years, and then he was on the harbour patrol, like police boat thing, and he was wazzing around in the sea on a police boat.
Sounds like a member of the SAS, actually.
Well, yeah, and
Navy SEALs,
and it was all that. It was all that sort of thing. So I was hooked in. I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And I even when I was, I think when we were at middle school or something. Me and a friend of mine whose dad was also, we went on work experience with the police and saw all sorts of fun stuff. But
what's work experience for the police like?
Well, we were in the, there's a lot of stories. One of them, we were in the back of the police car. You're probably not even allowed to do it these days. It was before high school, so I think we were probably 14, I don't know what age, 13, 14. And the two of us, whose fathers were police, we were in the back. we were in the back of a police car, and the radio goes off, and someone had gone to get their spare key. It was near Christmas, very cold. Someone had gone to put their hand through their letterbox to get their spare key out, and they had a ring on, and they'd fell over on the ice, and as they pulled the thing out, it skinned their finger, and the top of their finger had come off, and it landed on the inside of the house. No. And the copper said, who was driving the car, they said, "You got to get there ASAP." We're kids in the back thinking this is hilarious. And the copper said, "Well, we better pull our finger out, lads." He got really told off for that.
Did he?
Because we were in the back giggling.
I think that's quite good.
And then then we went and sat in on a court hearing about a flasher. And I learnt how hilarious it was to watch somebody whose job it is to be very, very serious say words that we giggle at all the time, and they're not allowed to giggle. So that was hilarious as well. But it was really fun. But my dad put me off, and fair play to him, he put me off doing the job just because the job changed enormously. You know, while he did it, through to now, obviously, it's not the sort of job I would want to do or be any good at. To be fair, so yeah, I was good. I would have done that. But I ended up just, not listening to anyone because they all say, "Oh, you can't get a job doing fishing." But
you said grades wise and stuff, you didn't do that great, and you didn't go straight into Sparsholt either. You went off to another place first of all.
Yeah, the college. There's a place in Suffolk called Otter College, and I was, after my GCSEs, which I didn't do as well as I should have done I just didn't try as hard as I should, to be fair, and then I was on this year course for sort of not dropouts, but sort of people who didn't do that well, still at the school, but they're there to try and help you out, which was brilliant. And they knew I was a mad keen fisher. All I was doing was going fishing at that stage down tiny little pond. I'd go anywhere really. Drawing Carp Society logos on bags, all that sort of thing. And I went to this. They sorted out for me to go for 1 day a week to Otter College because they said there was a fishery management course there. And there wasn't, but I didn't know. And at the time, I had to get a bus, and I went on the bus the first time. And they put me on a pig unit, sweeping up pig muck. And I thought, this is rubbish. So I didn't go back. Well, that's a lie. I did go back, but the next time I went, it was right near a river, a really nice river. So I took a little really cheap, horrible telescopic rod and some lures. And for about, I think, 3 or 4 months, every Thursday, it was on a Thursday, I would get on the bus and go there, but I would actually just get off the bus and the kids would go to that way and I'd go down the river and go fishing and then come back on the bus. And eventually they caught up with me and sort of said, "Well, you shouldn't be doing this," but at the same time they appreciated that they told me I was going to do some sort of fish related thing and I was cleaning out pigs. So then they just gave me a phone number of a guy. To be honest, it was one of the teachers gave me a phone number of a guy and said he might be able to give you some work experience, and I rang this chap called Tim, and he gave me he said, "Can you be at this address at 4:00 Monday morning?" And I said yeah. And I think the first couple of times I went, I got a lift, and then I was coming up to 16 years old then, and they put me in a pickup truck, and I'm sure I might be wrong, it was a long time ago, but I'm sure the first day I worked for them, we went to Grafham Water in the middle of winter, and it's freezing cold. And we shot a massive, great big seine net out of this boat. I've never been that cold, I don't think. And I got rubbish waders, and they gave me kit to wear. It was all rubbish. And freezing cold. I thought, this is horrible. I don't want to be here. This isn't what I want to do. This isn't fishing stuff. And then you spend the rest of the day pulling these nets in. Back then, using winches on the front of trucks, and it was horrible. And then the net comes in, and it was just tons and tons and tons of fish, mainly bream and a huge roach and some hybrids I'd never seen before, and some huge pike. And I was barely 16, and I'd seen more fish than most people will ever see, and it was unbelievable. And then you're not cold. Then you go from almost in tears being that cold. Your waders are freezing, everything's freezing. The nets, when you lay them on the floor, freezing. To just not being cold at all. It's like changed everything. And that day, he was like, right, okay, well, I get it now.
So that excitement and fascination and mystery about what is so you still feel that nowadays?
Oh,
no?
yeah. You do. It's like going fishing. If you go to a new venue, a new client's water, to do a survey or to fact find, which you have to do. You can't do this online. It's not a business that works online, unfortunately. You have to go there and you have to get in the water and you have to find out what's occurring in each water, because every single water is different. And it is still really exciting to me. That's what I love about it. I love going and finding what's wrong. And although you know a lot of people will ring emergency numbers and you can get a lot of answers online, but we're dealing with nature, we're dealing with livestock, we're dealing with living things, and really you need hands-on. You need to get in, because we can't see fish most of the time. You can have a look in a clear lake and look, see, oh, there's one over there. But once you get in the water and start exploring and sort of examining what's going on, not just with the stocks but with everything else that comes with that, you can always find what's going on, and then you can always find what's wrong. And that's what I get a buzz out of every day, is figuring out how each water works wherever it is, and then saying to the client, right, this is why this is happening, and this is why, because if there's parasites on the fish, or if there's a disease, or if there's fish dying, they always say, well, why has that fish died? The reason why it's actually died is quite often not the problem, it's secondary. You know, you always have to take a step back and look at what else is going on, how they're managing the fishery, or the environmental factors concerned. So, and I do still get a massive kick out of that every single time. And it's good, you know, it's what keeps you going, really. Because
you work as a consultant and a fish farmer as well. I mean, when people go to somewhere like Sparsholt, I guess, VS Fisheries or somewhere like that springs to mind. But your work is a little bit different to that.
Massively. I'm not a fish farmer. I've had lots. I've always had lakes and ponds where I've grown fish on since I was very, very young. From very simple things, and I still do it like that. In fairness, I don't use fish meal pellets. I don't use chemicals.
Why don't you use fish meal pellets?
Because I grew up with tiny little ponds, farm ponds, and access to cereal, and I was just chucking in rolled wheat, flake maize, anything I could get hold of, really, into little ponds with stunted fish in, and they were doing really well, and they were growing and breeding, whereas a lot of these ponds hadn't been touched before, so the fish were stunted and just ropey and dying. Not all carp, but lots of different species. It's a lot of species, always is. And it just went on from there, really. So when I started off advising people, and people used to laugh, and I'd say, well, I just feed flake maize and rolled oats and things like that, and it's good, and it's better than feeding nothing. And you got to remember, this is based on not just, it might work. It's based on when you net a lake and find fish and say, well, look, they're really malnourished, I'd feed them. And again, I've been doing it. Even back then, you wouldn't convince people to spend that much money anyway. They'd spend money on fish, but they wouldn't spend money on feeding them. So I thought, well, if I can get them to spend a little bit of money on feeding something quite cheap that does the fish good and isn't going to really affect anything else, and they start to understand that, it's a good way to get them listening, really. And it did work. But I just stuck to it. And luckily, as years went by, obviously I grabbed Ben as he was a student, and he's a dairy farming family, and he's straight away that he's going to graft and work really hard. And he's never ever been. The only time he was late, he crashed his car.
That's a valid excuse, really.
It's the only time he was late, yeah. And that's in 10 years. That's pretty
not
good.
Bad.
Yeah, he's a very good lad. But he's a lot more clever than I am now with all his business stuff going on. But and I met him, dairy farmer, got talking to him about the why I'm doing all this, that, and the other, and he's gone crazy with the whole pelleting, cereal pellets idea, and created BP Milling, which again, I just keep things really simple. I don't want to be using chemicals. I don't want to be using dyes. I want to keep everything completely simple, because for the most part it kind of is, if you stick to a load of basic stuff. So if you approach a problem and keep everything really simple, a bit like fishing, really, you can normally suss out what's occurring and come up with a good way around it. And things like not feeding fish meal, and also the environmental thing as well. We kill a lot of fish in the sea, and we're chucking them at carp, which we don't eat. We don't eat these fish. We just catch them, look at them, put them back. So if you're killing tons and tons, hundreds and thousands and millions of tons of sea fish just to feed fish that we don't even eat, there is an environmental factor there. And as things have progressed and moved on, and I've always stuck to it. You don't need to feed. Yes, you can argue the toss about growth rates and this, that, and the other, and food conversion rates and that, but it doesn't really bother me, because it's like most things in this job. If you get the results you want and you get the weight gains you want and the condition of the fish, well, I'm not worried about. And it's cheaper. It's much cheaper and better for the environment. So I always stick to my guns when it comes to things like that, because again, it's one of the things we do which is different from most people. And obviously, when you, like we were saying earlier, when you do something, it starts to people go, actually, he's selling quite a lot of that, we better do that. So you get people now who used to say, no, it's rubbish, you're going, actually, yeah, no, we're doing something, but it's a bit better. So it's the same as everything, really.
So this pellet that Ben's formulated, you're using this stuff now, are you? Is this
all the
completely
time? Yeah, all the time. The good thing about Ben is he won't just sit on something. He's developing all the time. He's a very clever lad, and we use it exclusively at the Carp Society. So every single fish you see come out of those stock ponds at the Carp Society has just been fed on that. I was a sort of fishery manager and helping a couple in the Cotswolds for 10 or a dozen years, and all we fed was cereal to start with. And when I met Ben, we were just using his pellet, and we were getting through quite a lot of that, and the condition of the fish is amazing. So then you start taking it a bit further and doing proper tank tests and stuff, and the water quality impacts are zero compared to fish meal. He's done loads and loads of independent testing, and obviously having access to my clients. Ben works for me in the winter, so when we go around to my clients, I can hand on heart say, well, look, this is all we do, and this is what we use, and it's cheaper, and it does X, Y, and Z, and it's just simple, really. So when you get a lot of clients doing it and buying the product from Ben, and they get the results, and that's all you're trying to do. You're just trying to say to people that you don't need to worry about it. Just calm down. You don't need to buy £1,000 weight of fish every 2 years just to satisfy anglers, because the reason your fishery's not performing is because it isn't because of that. It's not because you've got not enough fish. Quite often it's because you've got too many, or it's because of this. And there's lots of other things that you, like I say, you only learn when you get on site, really.
I was going to say, with your consultancy work, what are the sort of common people that you're going at? What's the average client like for you then? How?
It really varies a lot. It's I suppose we get a good cross section of syndicates, day tickets. Not so many commercial match fisheries. We do work at commercial match fishing, but I think I've put so much information online about how I don't think a lot of them are well managed. I think a lot of them steer quite clear of me, to be honest, and rightly so, because we go to a lot of these places and we catch ridiculous amounts of fish, and the lake's not fishing, and that's why. But they don't understand that, and it's tough to convince. Once you convince, it's like having a portfolio that luckily I'm so lucky to have, and I really am lucky to have the clients I've got, but once you convince and show enough people, and you work with them, you're working with like-minded people, you don't fall out with anyone, but sometimes you go to people and think, no, I can't help them, because
they won't listen.
They won't listen. And I don't know everything. I just know what I know based on what I've done since I was a kid, and what I've learned, seen with my own eyes, and not just bounced off someone else or copied someone else. And that's my advice. Is all based on what I've seen and what I've learned, and that's it. Not what I've read in a book, someone else's book, or some magazine. But just working with like-minded people. And when you get that relationship with a client, and you say, look, well, I'd do this, that, and the other. And when they say to me, what would you do if the lake was yours? Then you can be as brutally honest as you want, and then I'll write them a report and tell them exactly what I do. And if they even half go along those lines with you and work with you for 1 year, that's all I ask. Is I say, look, do what we say for a year. If it doesn't work, do what you like. And at the end of the day, we save them money, because they nearly always, doesn't matter if it's a syndicate carp lake, a day ticket water, angling club, all they really want to do is buy more fish, a lot of the time, because that's what the anglers want. And if the club or the syndicate turn around to majority of anglers, say, what would you like to see us do? It's buy more fish.
So what, you see a laziness with fishery owners to just not really want to do the work and just throw the fish in there? Yeah,
sometimes it's naivety. Sometimes they are just trying so hard to be everyone's friend. I go to a lot of places where, they say it has to be a business. It's a business. Private fisheries, and they just try and get on with everyone and be everyone's friend, but they're listening to anglers who've got no idea about fishery management. They've got no clue about, and I think a lot of them don't care. There's like, well, and in the mentality, I've been around anglers all my life, their mentality is, well, if he puts more fish in, I'll catch more fish. And it's not the case. Honestly, it really isn't the case. But a lot of it they just don't understand, and they're so driven by the anglers. And an angling club, they'll get to the end of the year and have an AGM, and they'll say, right, okay, we've accumulated X amount of money. We're thinking about putting in this, and it all comes down to fish. They just want, there are some really proactive angling clubs now. Earl Harrington Angling Club in Derby, they've come on leaps and bounds. When I first met them, I think they had one lake that they own, and they wanted to get more from Derby City Council, and the council were being funny about giving them leases for anything. Well, now they've just got a massive, a really decent portfolio of lakes of their own, which we've helped them lots in the past, and they've got some great, but they've got a good work ethic behind them. The driving force behind it, Dave Parr, he gets down. He's doing so much voluntary work, and he gets people involved. It's like with Polish people, everyone slates Polish people. Well, they got them involved from the start. And there's so many, and a lot of them are good anglers. So that the anglers that weren't poaching are now a big part of that club, and they go and help patrol the rivers. So yeah, you get to see all sorts of things.
So do you find anglers that own fisheries are a lot more difficult to deal with than non-anglers that have just got Yeah.
If it's a non-angler comes to us and says, I'm thinking about digging a lake, or I've got a lake, I don't know what to do with it, it's easy. Or a farmer. Farmers are easy as well because they understand livestock. And they understand everything else. It's like fishing. We always say this. I've said this for years. You have to take your angling head off and put your fishery management head on. If you haven't got one, you learn one, because they are two very different things. There's lots of parallels. There really is. But at the end of the day, you've got to be. You just have to. Which is why in my own fishing, I think you just want to keep away from anglers a lot of the time. Not for any reason other than the questions they're going to ask you all the time. It's not being rude or anything. I just want to be left alone and be quiet, and that's why I go fishing. So it's annoying because it's on social media. It's rife on social media. When they go, you want to do this, you want to do that. This is how you are. And it's like I always say, well, have you got your own lake? Where's your lake? And it's like, oh no, I've just read this.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. It's like, I try and be a lot more sensible than I used to be, but it's more. You got to understand. They just don't understand, and a lot of the time they do care. They're very passionate. They do care, but they're just a bit misguided. And like I say, I'm not an expert. You accumulate an awful lot of knowledge, and I think that helps because we've got so many places we go every year.
Yeah, I guess turning up to somewhere as well and saying, right, you've got a complete blank canvas, and they want to dig their own fishery and create their own fishery. That must be an absolute. I mean, did you get many of those?
Yeah, we've done those at home and abroad, and that's awesome, especially when they trust you to just do it. And that it is brilliant. I've never had the money to set my own fishery up from scratch and spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds. We weren't from a farming background, but at the same time, I've been lucky to go and been asked to do that. And it always is off the back of other things you've done in your career. So. Yeah, I've done it abroad. We set up a fishery in the Middle East for some lovely people out there in Georgia, and that was exactly like that. They had the land. They
didn't you say that they kept pestering you, but you didn't.
Sorry, that looks like a lovely place, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the Azerbaijan mountains in the background there, and that's in a place just outside Tbilisi in Georgia. And
how big was the lake?
Well, we only just. That was the second time I went. That net there, they didn't really know what a seine net was, so I had one made and taken out there the second time I went. It borders a lot of countries you wouldn't normally go to, but I had an amazing time. But yeah, the whole story about that, I just kept getting emails. It was a long time ago when I first went, and I kept getting emails, and they said, you must come to Georgia, you must come here and help us. And you think, yeah, it's a scam or whatever. Ask my bank details next, and I just kept ignoring them. But they went on for a long time. And in the end, and it basically said, I want you to come out here, and we've got this site we want to make into a fishery. And I was like, yeah, it just sounds wrong. So in the end, I just sent one email, one reply, and it said, yeah, fine, okay, I want plane tickets booked, hotel, I want to know where I'm staying, and I want X amount of money, and I want it into my account. And 3 days later, all those things were done.
Wow. Right.
So I was like, I've got to go now. This is worrying.
What was this, like a private fishery, just for a very expensive, wealthy person?
Just wealthy people.
What was your reaction? Sorry, when all that came in.
I was like, I still thought something. I'm very sceptical with stuff. I won a load of money in a fruit machine in Las Vegas last year, and until they put it in my hand, I was still like, this is something's going on here. But I was so sceptical, and but when they said, yeah, it's all done, and I looked in my bag and he's paid me. I thought, I've got to go now.
Yeah. So what was the criteria for the lake then?
Nothing. They wanted me. I still thought, well, why do they want me over there? And he said, we've looked at your website. We need someone. And what it was, what it really is, it boils down to, they love catch and release carp fishing. And in fairness, Korda are a little bit of a part of that, because they'd they've been watching Korda stuff online, and they're very wealthy, but they're still struggling to get hold of any gear over there. And their culture, like many countries, is eat whatever you catch. So, and because there's a lot of poverty, to be fair, and they will fish ditches and streams and puddles and everything they catch they'll eat. So their main culture is catch fish and eat fish. Doesn't matter what fish they are. And it's a beautiful country. I'd have never gone there on holiday, but I've been a few times, and it is just amazing. Their culture is amazing, and the people are awesome. Hospitality, it's never.
What did they put in this lake then?
Carp, grass carp, catfish. They basically, the first time I went out there,
they got quite a cold climate there as well, haven't they, at times? So
yeah. I mean, it's they have, but I don't think a lot of that matters really. It's no different than a lot of places you go where there is, the summer's the summer and the winter's the winter, and it might not get as hot. But it's a bit like when people used to say carp won't breed in Scotland. It's nonsense, I've been to a lot of places and seen a lot of things which contradict a lot of what I've learned. So you're always very open to.
So Scotland, just the numbers of fish that are up there. Is that?
People used to say about temperature.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get warm enough, and the lakes are too deep. But
I heard you talking about when lakes freeze over as well, and you're not too worried about losing fish in really cold temperatures.
No, it depends, because like I've had lakes that we've been in control of which were frozen for 8 weeks. I think it was when the whole country went white for 8-9 weeks. But the important bit in that situation is if the fish are content and well maintained, if they've been fed, and if the biomass is right. So if you've cropped and there's space in the lake, if the water quality is good, if you're managing the lake basically and doing it properly, it doesn't bother me if they're frozen over. If someone rings me and says my lake's frozen, should I smash the ice? I'll ask them loads of questions and try and figure out, relative what the biomass might be, how high stocking density is. The biomass is the total weight of fish in the lake. If they've got loads of fish and not feeding them, they might be a bit malnourished, which isn't going to help. And also it'll add to the water quality issues. But yeah, if you've got a lake and it's a lot of work to keep maintaining the standards of what I'd class as a healthy fishery, then I wouldn't smash the ice. But there are people you have to if it's like everything. This is what I mean. To generalise in this job is dangerous, which is why I sort of don't try and comment too much on some forums, because there's a lot of useful information. There's a lot of knowledgeable people, no question. But I think it's a bit dangerous when you're trying to say, yeah, mate, do this to your lake because it worked at this other lake up the road. If that's the only information they get and they go and act on it, I've seen things go badly wrong, based on. And so why did you do this? Oh, because he told me, matey down the pub told me, or someone online told me. It's like, well, did they come? Did they come here? Did they see?
So you find a lot of your work as well as like last resort when people realise that they've screwed up. And
yes,
then
reluctantly they'll call someone like myself.
Yeah.
But in Georgia, they basically had a blank canvas, and the first time I went, I wrote it's all in an article in the revised Carp Fishing magazine, and I was on the aeroplane and I had a spare phone because I thought I was going to get murdered, so I thought I'll hide a spare phone.
You thought you were going to get murdered?
I watched a lot of spy stuff in the 90s, like Spooks. I used to love that, so I thought, yeah, I'm going to get, this is all a ruse to get me. I was just going to murder me or something. So when I got picked up from the airport, it was like 2 a.m. or something. Black Range Rover picked me up with 2 guys.
Yeah,
in.
That's not filling you with confidence, is
no,
it?
not at all. So, but all the time I'm thinking, that's right, I got my spare phone. They might find. I just watched too much spy stuff. I thought they'll pat me down. They'll find this one. Haha. I got another one in my pants. So, but we went to a bar. And we went in this bar and they just put a bottle of whiskey on the table and they said, welcome to Georgia. And then everything was just like, oh, okay. And they were really nervous. And it was amazing. They're just awesome people. And they basically showed me the site the next day. And then I got a big A4 sheet and drew the lakes on it, how I'd do it, and stock ponds and blah, blah. There's a river coming up the top, so it's just taking a little inlet out of there. And I went, there you go, that's roughly what we want to do. And then they'd suddenly, out of nowhere, 10 guys would appear and make a banquet out of nothing. I mean, it's a phenomenal experience. And then the following year I went back and I said, you need a net, because when we had to go to a fish farm with a police escort. All sorts of weird and wonderful things happened on that trip. And the fish farm was kind of, they fed cereal, they couldn't afford to buy any fish meal pellets. They fed a lot of cereal, and the whole of that fish farm was very run down, very tiny. And they had grass carp, catfish and carp. We pretty much bought all the fish off them to stock a 10-acre and a 20-acre lake but the main thing was the stock ponds. I wanted to show them growth rate, relative growth rates in stock ponds. So I put like 50 kilos of tiny fish in one, and same size stock pond, and 100 kilos in the next one to show them what the difference would be, and how it would slow it down, obviously, because there's more fish, etc. So, and it was working really, really well. But I said you need a net, and they didn't have any, so I got one. The second trip, I had one made, and then flew that out there. And so when I flew out the second time, there was a seine net waiting for me. So then it showed them how to net the lake and repair nets, and I told them the first time that if they stocked the right amount of fish into the big lake, they'd breed like mad. And there is a video somewhere of when we netted the lake. There's like, I can't remember, it's probably like 1,500 pounds weight of 1 to 3 inch carp in there, which they thought was absolutely amazing. I'm like, well, that'll happen every year. And it was mainly because that's what happens when they've got space. If you stock a brand new lake from scratch, and a lot of people have fell foul of this, go, yeah, I'm going to dig a lake and stock it with big fish and it'll be amazing. I'm going to put features in it. A lot of well-known fisheries have done this and fell foul of it. And then suddenly, because it's an empty and quite often fertile environment, the fish breed like mad. The carp breed, and if you only put carp, they just grow like mad, and suddenly the anglers are catching 6-inch carp and get moaning about it. And if you've dug it as a lunar landscape, you've got to drain it to get them out. So, and we never do that. But like I say, it's always you're just learning all the time, and you're seeing so much stuff. So you just learn what to advise clients and what not, and what to do in your own fisheries as well. We
mentioned as well, didn't we, about really large fish in small lakes as well. We got some examples of that. I mean, is there a blueprint for that, or are you just just depend on the water quality of the fish, or is it just a combination of
a lot of variables that can lead to that? Lot. I mean, any bit of water will only support a certain amount of fish weight-wise, and so it doesn't matter if it's lots of small fish or less big fish. But there is a point where the water will only support a certain biomass. So, and there's nothing written down. There's too much written down. But in my mind, it completely varies, and a lot of it is environmental factors. Is it surrounded by trees? Is it getting enough light? Is it getting enough air? How deep is it to a certain degree? What's siltation like? There's lots and lots of things. Because there's some lakes in the country, like acre pools of 50-pound fish, which have generally been in there a long time and grown. And there's others which can't sustain any fish because the water quality is poor. So, and again, it's all down to getting to that individual. I mean, just getting in the water. I've been to club waters and private fisheries where people, I said, well, and I'll get in as soon as I get there. Chuck your waders on, whatever reason I'm there for, just get in. And you'll find undercut banks, you'll find all sorts just by getting in the water, and you're like, the amount of times I say, oh, Dad, I've never been in there. To me, it's like owning a car and not driving it. I've always been one for getting in the water. I mean, I don't get fish out of the water, and because we handle so many fish in the winter, I don't. And I've learned that actually it's less messy as well. If I just chuck waders on, get in the water, weigh the fish, if I need a picture quick, and do it all in the water, it's much better off. It's much better for the fish, but also I don't have to get anything mucky. I don't have to get you land in net, but I don't have to get it's easy, and it's better for the fish. That was at South Surney Angling Club on the water park.
Great shot
that was.
Which lake was that? Can you say?
The Big Lake. I think it's called Big Lake.
Large lake.
Yeah.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah.
How big's that carp?
30 something.
Sorry, you were putting that in, or you were netting that water, weren't you?
They Ashton Keynes Angling Club.
Okay.
Ashton Keynes Angling Club it is. I'm sure it is. We do too many, that's the problem. Ashton Keynes Angling Club, the Big Lake, and it's got one really well-known big fish in it.
Yeah, it has.
I can't remember what it's
called.
Yeah,
let's not.
Yeah. Anyway, but we were there to do a bit of a survey because they wanted to know values of the fish, basically. And it was, again, there's some old videos online somewhere of it, and it was horrendously windy. Really, really, really windy. And the majority of that lake's quite shallow. So we were shooting loads of net. We were doing like big sweeps, 300-400 metres. And we were catching pike and stuff, and not a lot really. But the fish notoriously are held up in small areas in that lake. And when we'd pretty much finished, and it was getting late in the day, we'd had, and it was horrendously. I mean, the boat, I've got a little boat and a big boat. The little boat was getting flipped over in the wind and stuff. So we'd loaded the nets in the boat to go and pack them up on the truck. And on the way back to the truck, there's like a hole, and it's probably the deepest bit of the lake. And I said to Ben, let's just chuck a net round it. It's not very big, this thing. I chuck a net, and we caught I don't know, 50 carp in there, and they're all big.
Jeez.
Yeah, some real beautiful fish. But that's with any of these pits, otter fenced or not. I mean, it's
that lake's not otter fenced, is it?
No.
Yeah.
No, and that was probably, I don't know how many years ago it was. 5 probably 4. But we do a lot of these big pits. You know, we do as many big pits and as many low stock venues as we do commercials and stuff like that. And you learn so many things about all of them. You know, most of the time. And we're doing this in the winter, and in the winter the fish, you know, you can get 100%, not 90. You can get 100% of the fish.
Can you?
In 1% of the water, yeah. And because anglers will go fishing in the winter thinking, for me, winter fishing would be in the summer. I'm not too worried.
Certain end of the lake, or
yeah.
What, southern facing, or
no? It massively varies. I always like to think on bigger waters it varies more. I think personally, but on smaller waters, if you've got a bank where the sun's coming up first thing in the morning and the light's on that far, that's the first place I'd go and look, definitely. And this is all from a netting point of view. When we turn up to net a lake, it's like you go and fishing. You've got to think, right, where are the fish going to be? If the lake's less than 6 acres, you're going to do the whole thing in a day anyway. So you kind of don't worry too much, but you still want to catch them. And especially with snags and everything, and people's expectations when you go and do a survey is unbelievable. You know, we've got tons of kit, so we're never undergunned. And to the point where, someone did it last year and they come up and they just had this or they just had that. It's like, well, we can't comment on that because that's not what we do. We want to go there and we get paid to offer a service. You know, a lot of fish dealers will say, well, we'll come and net for free and we'll take your fish away. I don't do that. I want to get paid for doing it, which means you can invest in better kit and have the right kit to offer a better service. But when you're doing these lakes, you're just learning all the time. Tench are a funny one as well. All of those pits in the water park, every single one we've surveyed have all got juvenile tench, but less and less bigger tench. They're either getting eaten, they're dying out, they're getting caught and moved around or whatever, but you wouldn't know because no one's catching them on one line, but near enough every one we've done has got a good nucleus of juvenile tench, because tench are very, very tough fish. Very valuable fish, but they're very, very strong and tough, so very resilient, but people don't catch them. But you fire up electrofishing kit in little reed beds.
What sort of size would they be?
Oh, you catch them when they're from a centimetre, because they're tough. Like a carp, that centimetre carp is nowhere near as tough and can't withstand temperature change or anything like that. As you know, tench and pure cruisers are two of the toughest species, which is why we like them. But yeah, you just, like I say, you're learning so much, and you go to so many places. People will ring you up and go, "Oh, mate, do you remember you came in netted mutton?" No, I'm rubbish, absolute rubbish. Apart from regulars, people we go every year become friends and become colleagues, you know. So you know those. But when people say if it's more than 2 years ago, I'm like, not a clue. And there's always something that happened that day which you'll remember. Like, do you remember your mate fell in it? Was it? Oh, okay, I now remember. But they'll mention fish. Do you remember you caught Eric, our one-eyed man, mate? Yeah. Got no idea.
You mentioned the water park as well. What were you talking about, the triple SI on there, that they're trying to triple SI the entire water park?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You think that will come to fruition?
I expect so. Most of these things do.
And what do you think the consequences of that would be for anglers?
It shouldn't have any effect on angling, and on existing fisheries that are run properly shouldn't have any effect. I've been told by the main guy who seems to be sorting all this stuff out that it's more about future developments. I think a lot of it's about wildfowl, birds. They seem to be on the side of the anglers as much as the fact that a lot of these fisheries that are fenced have got a lot of wildlife, funnily enough, winged wildlife anyway. You know, like go and look at any of the lakes, there's wildlife, the birds on all of them, because anglers chuck bait in and the birds have wised up to that. It's more about development. I think a lot of them there, and a lot of people aren't going to like it, and I don't want it, but a lot of people, I think when these things get clout from different organisations, it's probably going to happen anyway. And I don't think anyone needs to be really scared about it, but those sort of people who are trying to get hold of a lake now, who in a few years' time are going to want to bang up loads more cabins and that sort of thing on the water park, if it all comes ahead, you'll probably have to go for a lot more channels, and I think it probably all comes down to money.
That's why they want to do that, to stop all that building going on there. Yeah,
that's what they say. And I alarm bells obviously rang, and a lot of people are just going to do what a lot of people do in this situation and just be ignorant and shut gates and get moody and stuff. But at the end of the day, if something like this is going to happen, you're better off embracing it head on and sort of saying, okay, well, so I did as much as I could, and as much as the main guy who was sending out the email saying that this was going to happen, I said, well, if I had it in writing categorically that, like, because we've got waters that we work on in the water park, so if you're not going to change how they're managed and run, because we need to be in there managing these fisheries. If I need to cut a tree down, I want to cut a tree down. If I need to, and most of what we do is planting. You know, we want to be planting these lakes. If there's barren bits, we'll remove some snags, but we'll increase the amount of marginal habitat. So, and they're happy. Nothing that we're involved in is going to change. But I think some of these big developments, like if they're digging new lakes, and I think it's all about like everything. It's about money, because they'll just say, "Oh, okay, well, what if you want to do that? We'll have to offset it against this," and it all comes down to money at the end of the day.
You think anglers might need to be re-educated a little bit when
anglers always need to be re-educated about a number of things, and there's not enough sources of you know, you get people banging a drum about fish welfare or how to look after fisheries when you're on them. But it's annoying. There's most anglers are fine. Everyone knows that. But you only hear about the bad experiences with different anglers, and they're the ones that, you know, as anglers, we've got to be doing what we can to hold our heads up high and say, look, yes, we catch fish, and yes, we put hooks in fish. No one's denying that. But look, we're looking after them as best we can, and that's why so many little things you can do. Same with otter predation. It doesn't do our industry any good for people to be saying, of
course not.
This ridiculous. But those people, if I see these comments, got them we're developing our own couple of fisheries now, and when they're open, you get a list. So when you see these comments of people going, otters, or any of these negative things, you just write the names down. It's like, they're never going to come to any of our waters. You don't need that. You just don't need that. You need to be responsible in this industry, as you do in any, really. And
as a fishery owner as well, you put a lot of importance on handling fish in the water, and we were talking before, weren't we, that you're seeing examples of people that are just you know, not really following that, and it's unnecessary, isn't it, to keep, you know, keeping fish out of the water when you can do all that work in the water.
You really can, and I know why people do it. It's all about photographs, and they're paranoid that if they catch a big fish, if they're not confident in handling fish in the water, then they're thinking, well, what if I drop it? Well, if you drop it in the water, it will just swim away. That's all it will do. If you drop it on the bank, it will damage itself. And I've always done it. For me, it's easy because I'm in the water every day handling fish. Every day. That's what we do. So for me, being in the water is like, it's just easy for me. So I get in, lift it. I don't often weigh a fish, you know, but if you're a sponsored angler, or if you're someone who's dead set on taking photographs of every single picture, every single fish you catch, whether it be £3 or £35 or whatever, you're going to get it out. And then you're looking for the best daylight, and it annoys us greatly when we see them carting. They put a sling on the shoulder like it's a shopping bag and wander up steps or wander across fields. It's like, no, you just don't have to do that. Especially with cameras. Cameras nowadays are amazing. You know, you used to wind things on and take and go, you didn't even know if it was a good picture until 2 months later. And half the time it wasn't. There's a bit missing. Now it takes seconds. You know, my phone is amazing. You can do night shots with it and self takes with it. You don't have to do all this stuff. And that really, I think, if more and more people insisted on things like, and you're always going to get arguments, well, I don't want to get in the water because it's cold, or I can't swim. But I'm like, well, you're responsible. If you cast out and try and catch a fish, you are responsible for what happens. No one else. You are. So you're responsible for following the rules of the lake. You're responsible for not leaving litter and not crapping in the bushes. That's your responsibility. No one else is. So you're also responsible for looking after that fish. And no matter what the rules are, if you don't agree with the rules, you go and fish somewhere else. But if you go there to get hammered or you're just disrespecting the rules, I think these people should be brought to account, and they shouldn't be anything to do with what decent people are trying to achieve in fishing, because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, they're overlooking, you know, the most important part about going fishing as well, aren't they? You know, it's getting back to that triple SI thing. Do you know when this could potentially happen? And have you heard of this anywhere else in the country where they might just, you know? Well,
everywhere that's linked with any of the big organisations, national trusts, things like that. Yeah, I mean, we work at a lot of triple SIs, a lot of estate lakes, and a lot of lakes are already on triple SI grounds, and it doesn't stop you doing much, in fairness, if you go about it the right way. But as we've just discussed, you know, some anglers and some fishery owners will go about it the wrong way and ruffle feathers. And I've learned to be more diplomatic as I've got older and been involved in more sort of disputes with landowners and fishery owners and that sort of thing. We've had lots of decisions go our way when it comes to things like, even little things like councils wouldn't allow night fishing at certain waters, and we've helped overturn these decisions. But it is about how you go about it. And when you've got big organisations, angling isn't massively well represented anyway. It never has been. And the Angling Trust, the latest incarnation of, an angling body as such. But when you're trying to combat Natural England or RSPB, you've got no hope in hell, really, because they'll always get their way, because they're much, much more powerful. And rightly so in a way, because they're more unified. And I try not to get involved in politics, because I still think I'm 20 years old. And I probably will when I'm older, because I'm mega passionate about what I do, and I will want to be involved in some way as I get older. But at the moment, I just try and concentrate on what I'm doing right now, because I love it, and it annoys me when things.
But you've got some strong opinions on stuff that you think could make a difference, and
yeah, of course, yeah, and you can't please everyone all the time, but all I do is try and instill in my clients what I'd want to do with my own lakes, and luckily we're developing our own, so we can show off how we think they should be managed and how we think they should be run. And in all fairness, that if you look at our client list and portfolio of what we've been up to in the last 20 odd years, it's a pretty impressive list for someone who didn't do very well at school.
It's good. Talking of clients, you've worked for some quite interesting people. Did you mention a story about a racing driver once as well?
that was I was very young. Jackie Stewart, that was amazing. I'm a massive Formula 1 fan and a massive motorsport fan. Yeah, I went to his house.
What's his house like?
It's amazing. It's got obviously everything you'd expect, but they were having a driver's party. He was arranging a driver's party. I didn't think he was going to be there. I was about 18. I hadn't been driving long. Went there on my own. And he's got this beautiful grounds. Got in the bottom of the sweeping garden is a pond of about 1.5 acres, I think. And it was chocolate brown, like a coffee. I saw there's a lot of fish in there. Didn't say anything. The gardener came out and said, "Yeah, this pond's all brown, and he wants it. It was clear."
That's not a good thing, is it? It's brown.
It's all brown. And he's got a drivers' party coming up. All the drivers are going to be here. And I was 18,
Wow.
And I said, well, there's loads of fish in it. You can see them. You could walk round, and there's goldfish and stuff in there. I said, he said, oh no, there shouldn't be any fish in there. And one of his staff had put a load of goldfish in there from a pond, as they do, and they'd just bred. And it didn't take long, and these fish had just gone mad. And goldfish are tough, and they breed, and they'd just gone mad. And within 6 months, have turned this pond from crystal clear and weedy into brown.
He must have been devastated.
As I was talking and saying this, the man himself walked down the garden. I was like, this is amazing. And I was young, I was like, oh, he's coming down. I was really nervous. Put hat on, everything, the whole lot, with his beautiful wife. He's taller.
You think he wears that hat everywhere?
Oh, he probably sleeps in it.
The old tartan hat. And yeah.
And he came down, said, oh, Mr. Stewart, lovely to meet you. And he turned around to me and said, what's going on here? And I said, well, there's lots of fish in that pond. And then he turned around to the guy from this company. He said, I've been paying you an awful lot of money every year to manage my estate, he said, and this kid comes along. This kid comes along and tells me what I need to know in 5 minutes. And he basically sacked him.
Wow.
And then
the guy lost his job because of you.
Yeah. And then
I bet you were sweating by this point.
Well, then he turned around and he said, oh, if you want to see some cars, he said, if you just go up there, he said, and my mate will open the garages for you. And I went and it was honestly one of these moments. I was like on cloud 9. I went and stood in the middle in this quad of garages, and it was honestly, I just felt great. I thought, I've just met Jackie Stewart. I've just sorted out his little problem there just by getting someone in trouble. Rightly so. I mean, he shouldn't move fish anyway. You put them into water. You shouldn't be moving fish around like that anyway. And then this button turns, and it's like, and all these doors open, and I'm just like that.
My God.
And then there was like F1 cars. Stuff I'd never seen before, XJ220s, and I was 18. I was like, this is just brilliant. But that's the amount of times I've met, famous people and done mad stuff for telly. These things just seem to happen. I don't know why, but
you sent me a picture of Casualty. What was that all about?
That was hilarious. Again, I just got called up, and they said, we need a fishery consultant to come and advise on an episode. Yeah, we're looking at quite a gruesome picture there, aren't we? Well, I mentioned Spooks earlier, right? I recognise that guy. He's an extra. He's an actor, and he was in Spooks. He was one of the earlier seasons of Spooks. So straight away I recognised him.
Do you remember that? That was Lisa Faulkner when she got her head.
That's it. That was the first season.
Yeah.
And he was quite made up that I recognised him from that, because I just used to love watching it. But that was at a fishery in Wales I've done a lot of work for over the years, called Cefn Mably Lakes, which is brilliant. And again, when I went there, as with a lot of the ones I've got to know, it was a trout fishery, with one horrible little pond on it, and I wrote them a report once I'd been down there, and it basically said, you might as well turn it into course and carp fishing now, because trout fishing, it's not where you're going to make a lot of money. And if you look at the place now, it's quite amazing, and the guys run it really well. It's a family-run business. They run it really well, but that happened to be filmed there, and the BBC rang and said, will you come and have a look? And a guy came out to see me, and I sort of said, yeah, okay. So I went down there, and it was 3 days. Brilliant. I love doing stuff like that. If you don't have to get in the water when you're my age, I mean, this was quite a while ago, but I learned that actually I don't have to get in the water every day as much as I love it. So yeah, they basically paid me to consult and advise, because the whole premise of that episode was 2 guys go fishing. One's foreign, and he wants to catch this fish and kill it and eat it, and one of them's British. But the British bloke, his daughter's ill, and they put he catches a fish that they put in this is all fiction, by the way. They put into the lake for his daughter who was ill, and it's a ghost carp. And they said, I must admit, when you watch how they film one of these episodes, it's unbelievable. It's a machine, just the amount of people. And I was in awe of the whole. For me, it was just amazing. And they made a fish. Like a prosthetic fish, looked rubbish. To be fair, he knocked it up in a day, and it was pretty good. But I'm like, nah, we use a real one. And because we've stocked it in the past and stuff, we could use fish, and we've got all the health checks in place. So I bought them a ghost carp, and there's ghost carp in this lake already, and and then the fish that were in there a lot of them were from my place anyway years ago. So I took them a fish, and so I kept them in oxygenated tanks all nicely, and I showed one of the lads who worked there as well. We were showing them how to cast, because they're actors, so whenever you see like in a catalogue when they're holding a rod and they're just holding it,
you can tell, can't you?
It's like, we're fishing. It's like, okay, no one's going to buy that.
Yeah.
So you teach them how to fish and stuff, and then teach them how to hold the fish. And it was just brilliant. But then in the end, because I'm in the water in the waders, and they didn't have the shot they wanted was when they make up in the end, because that happens. He gets a gaff in his head. Because they have a big fight. I mean, who's got a gaff at a carp lake? I don't know. And if they did, they shouldn't be there.
Yeah, that's a serious injury, that, isn't it?
Probably be on a ward.
Yeah.
But yeah, but the shot they wanted was them releasing the fish together and then shaking hands, and that's how it ends. But they didn't have a rig to get the shot they wanted. Well, I'm in the water, and I said, well, just let me do it. And they said, oh no, health and safety. I'm like, I'm in the water already. Yeah. So in the end, I got a big camera thing on a stick. So I was like doing a bit of that. Oh, it was brilliant. And then I got to go to where they film all the indoors bits, which is where they also film Doctor Who.
What's that, in Bristol?
No, it's Cardiff, down at the bay. But you try and get in there. Oh my God, it's good security gates here, but there's. I mean, he said because Doctor Who's a massive worldwide thing. Oh, you can go in Casualty. They don't care. Yeah, it's fine. So you're not getting in Doctor Who. You can try and parachute in or something. But yeah, little things like that happen, and it's jobs like that are great. I think that's what makes you. It makes you be. The more of these varied jobs you do, I can offer better advice. I mean, that's just fun. That is stuff like that's fun. But when you get to go abroad and you get asked to do all this other stuff, and the volume of work you do, and the quality of work you do, and the better people you meet, and the better fisheries you go to, but you've got to. It's no good just going to nice places all the time.
Did you find you got a different clientele to most people then?
I have no idea because I don't know what other people do.
Don't take any notice of what they do.
You can't. You see, you do when people tag you in things and say, "Oh, you wrote this the other day." You're just copying your stuff, but you don't worry about that. You can't, and it's unprofessional to. I just no.
Yeah.
You just get on with your job.
Yeah, I get that.
And luckily we're very busy, so you just crack on. Really.
And Escape to the Chateau as well, which I watched. I watched your piece last night on that. That was quite entertainment. And you got a proper talking. You were talking in that as a fishery consultant as well. I mean, is that just through this TV stuff, and it just kind of goes from there?
No, I don't. That was.
So we're looking at a picture there.
Channel 4.
Yeah.
Channel 4 again. They just called me up and sort of said, "Oh, looked at you on the website and social media, and we'd be interested to get you over to help." And I'd sort of watched it a bit before, but not really.
I mean, that was an interesting little project, wasn't it?
It was just amazing. I mean, me and Ben went and did it, and and I said, "Oh well, it's one of those jobs you think, yeah, whatever." So I said, "If you send me the details, and I'll put a quote in." Oh well, we don't really pay for this sort of. I mean, I'd have done it for free anyway because it's on Channel 4, really, it's prime time Channel 4, and you'd have done it for nothing. Oh, well, we don't really pay. I was like, oh, okay. Well, we're very busy, you know. Not sure if we can get over in the time scale you wanted, but obviously I was going to go anyway, and we did. And they are brilliant people. They are amazing. They're both hilarious. They're both mega hardworking.
Yeah.
He tells it how it is. He's honest. Yeah, we got on really well. And
You had a 2-acre lake there. I mean, is that exciting as well to turn up somewhere like that? Or with your experience, do you turn up there and think there's probably nothing too big in here? Or?
Well, yeah, because again, there are places which don't see any sort of fishery management where there's big fish, no question. But that is, if you go there at the right time in a 20-year period, there'll be huge fish in some of these places, because it's peaks and troughs. You have rises and falls. If you leave it to nature, which I don't like people saying, just leave it to nature, because then one or two, you might have a year where you get great recruitment and everything happens really fast and everything goes really well, and there's suddenly predation, water quality, something will intervene, and then you'll lose loads of fish. That's what happens in nature anyway, not just fish but all manner of things.
Yeah, you see that.
Overpopulation, crash. We like to keep things level, so we try and manage and maintain. So you do find places that if on the right year, if you're lucky, you'll go and find a lake that's got some huge fish in. That one's 800 years old at Dick and Angel's place. It's 800-year-old moat, which is horrendously silty. And there's carp, roach and rudd in there, and a few perch, but they're stunted and relatively old and small, so there's nothing to write home about. But again, it can all be turned around, but I'll hopefully eventually we'll go back there and dredge it. It needs a bit of depth. There's very little water in there, to be fair.
So it didn't look like you found too many fish in there. I mean, was that everything you found on film? Or
no.
They
just cut it all together. There's about £500 of fish when we went.
And is he running it because he was looking at running that as a commercial, as a fishery?
At the time, they were looking at all options. So they were obviously they were trying to do the Chateau up and everything, and they were seeing about how big.
It's a beautiful place.
How big it is? Quite amazing, really. Yeah, but I don't. It's one of them, really. I mean, it's because of what it is now, and that was season 2, so it wasn't a huge show then. I mean, it is now. You can't get there for love nor money. They were doing these little hospitality weekends and stuff, because they are very interesting people. You just sit there and they tell brilliant tales and stuff and how they got where they are, and they're just brilliant. You know, you can spend a lot of time with them. That if you were, I liked him because he says what he wants.
You like that?
Yeah. He says what he wants and he doesn't care if he upsets one or two people, and he's brilliant. I had a lot of fun, and it was great for us. You know, we got on the TV doing that, so you get work out of the back of it. So but we did a good job. We took total. I could have took half the kit and do the same job, but you think, well, I'll take loads anyway.
Of course. We had Chris Ball on the podcast last week, and obviously if Chris Ball comes on the podcast, he's going to mention Redmire Pool and estate lakes in general, and the kind of the events that led to Redmire becoming the fishery it was, with the small estate lake with 50 odd carp in there and a low biomass of anything else in there. I mean, you work around estate lakes around the country. I mean, are there ever sort of little Redmires around that we don't know about? There are. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, I mean, otter predation is having a real drastic effect on that, but we've got a lot. I've always had lakes where I've kept fish that are on estates alongside which have got lakes like that, which will never be fished, because the minute you open them up to it doesn't, and a lot of the time the estate doesn't want anyone on there anyway.
So have you come across?
Yeah, there's quite a few, and there always will be. But again, otter predation's the killer, because years and years ago we used to put fish out, and your main problem was cormorants. So if you're trying to put fish out in ponds, you used to have a lot of handshake agreements with farmers, and get to know people, and they say, "Oh, I've got a pond. Do you want to put some fish in it to grow on?" And that's how I used to start growing fish on. Used to get some fish, get a health check, make sure they're clean, because there's no point getting fish that aren't if you want to sell them down the line, and you go, and if you can drain and lime and empty the pond, all well and good. If not, it's just an already existing pond on a farm somewhere. You used to put fish in it, get the farmer to feed them or whatever. If it's a long way from home, you'd reach some sort of arrangement. It's sometimes carp, but a lot of the times tench, because they're more valuable. And you go back a year later and harvest fish, and you have this working relationship. But cormorants started to put pay to that, so you need to work harder. And now it's the same with carp and otters. So if you find these lakes, if they're not otter fenced, the ones we've taken on recently, we have to otter fence them. I love otters. I've got tons of footage. So has Ben. We've got loads of awesome footage of otters, and I love them. I think they're awesome. But when they come onto your fishery and kill your fish, you've got to do what you can to protect them. I ain't going to kill an otter, but I'm going to fence it so it can't get in. And I think the fish have got as much right as the otters.
And the owners of these estate lakes as well, I guess, they want to see otters as well. I guess.
Oh yeah, one of the estates, which is on a beautiful capability brown, estate, and it's just stunning. I mean, we're lucky. We work at some of the beautiful estates in the country, and but they had a very, very small syndicate on there years ago, and we've done quite a lot of work on it over the years. And the otters moved in and pretty much done all the big carp in one season, really, 1 year. And there wasn't loads in there, that's why they got so big. But someone took a photograph of the otter sitting in an archway where this water's like dripping behind it. It's a beautiful photograph, and he's chomping on a little bream, the otter is. And they just had this visitor centre installed, and the visitor numbers were through the roof because that picture got put in some magazine online or something. And the people are coming to look at the otter, and the public, and so they've never seen that amount. They've never been busier, to the point where they're considering stocking the fish to feed the otter. And we're anglers. We're so blinkered about nothing else matters. But you've got to be sensible, and you've got to understand that. Like I keep saying with the otters, it's not a problem that's going to go away. We go to loads of places in an advisory role, and people say, "Oh, they won't come here. We're not near the water. We're not near a river. We're not near this. We're not near that." We've had people in France say to me, I've been told twice by 2 different people who have rung me for advice and say, "Well, there's no otters in France." Well, there is, and we've had to speedily help people out with otter fencing, especially down in Limoges, one of my favourite places down there at Forest View, which is a crazy place. There's huge fish in there. Lovely family took that over a few years ago, and we went out there, drained it to take all the snags. It's basically a part of a forest that got flooded, and there's some amazing pictures of what it looked like before. But the fish are huge. It's not. There's 100 fish in there in about 8 acres. And the average size is easily over 45 pounds. I mean, you catch, there's not many small fish in there at all. And again, that hasn't got tons of silvers in. We've netted it a few times, drained it a few times, and took out, 700-800 pounds, £1,000 of silvers each time we've done it, and that's helped. But there's fish in there to close to 90 pounds. But that got ottered the first year they drained it, and they had no idea. And luckily, we'd worked at another fishery not far from there, called the Retreat, which is smaller, but he'd otter fenced his because he was having problems already. So we got them in touch with each other, and that's what it's about. It's not about we'll go and do it. It's about we're back home, but we've worked up the road. Let's just give them each other's contact details. Let's try and make it as easy as possible. And to be fair, that's the best thing that could happen, because that got fenced. They used the same team and just got it done real quick. But then you go from that where those people and they came to me and they wanted to pay me a retainer to help them out. And just have me on the end of a phone for advice, and they're lovely, and I've fished it and I've netted it. It's an awesome place, and they're running that little fishery exactly how you should run a fishery, which is do everything sensibly, personal touches, not too many anglers, just sensibly, and it's awesome. But then you go from that to there isn't any otters in France, mate.
Any idea why certain areas of France, certain regions might be seeing more otters than others?
No, because I don't know enough about otters. But there's certainly plenty down around that Limoges area. There's lots and lots down there, and we've heard a lot of different reports from various places in France. But then we work closely with a number of fisheries north. They certainly haven't hit us near Bourges. Or up in near Metz. There's lakes up there I've worked at since I was a kid, and then they're not an issue. But again, you're going to struggle to fence a lot of these fisheries unless they're privately completely owned, because if you're renting them off estates, they're not going to let you put otter fences. A lot of the time, it all depends. See, a lot of them make money in different ways from shooting or from different activities, so they're not always going to want you to fence.
Not always geared up just towards carp fishing.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
It's like with what you said about estate lakes in England. Some of the most beautiful lakes we've been to, they're never going to have an otter fence around them because it looks prison-esque anyway. It doesn't look very good, and it doesn't matter because they're like, well, okay, a lot of estate lakes, some make a fortune out of carp fishing, but they're few and far between. Most of them don't make the estate nowhere near as much money as car parking or anything else, so they're not going to prioritise it and say, let's put a fence around it to save a couple of fish. Unfortunately, you have to be realistic. It's no good getting upset about it. You sort of say each situation is very different. So you have to approach it like that as well. You might go to an estate one day where there's no way they're going to put an otter fence up. There's huge fish swimming around in there, which might be 50 years old. And the next day, someone's moaning because their mates just fell in. And it's just so different, the work. And that's why I love it. And it keeps you on your toes.
But I love the romance of potentially turning up somewhere and finding. You do. But, you do, yeah. But like you say, these fish on these estate lakes are going to be really, really old now, I take it, aren't they? And do you find with the Redmire thing, do you think that was a common stocking policy back then to find estate lakes that would stock with just carp as well?
Yeah, and stock them small as well, because you didn't have to worry about cormorants back then. If you did it now, you'd be there is a similar lake in Cambridge. Similar situation, big fish, old fish, only carp, no other species, which massively helps because your biomass is not going to be. If the only thing that's in there breeding and surviving is carp, then sure, you might have the stars might align. You might get the right climate and everything. You might have a huge survival of carp. But then if the cormorants turn up, they're going to annihilate an awful lot of those, and that's exactly what happened in the lake in Cambridge. And it was the one I went with Kev Green, and we were helping set up for the client. Probably 10 years ago, maybe more, and we netted that, and I was mega impressed. It's like that was like unheard of. It was in the middle of it. You had to cut a way in to get in there, and it was basically a farming family who said, "Oh, we've got this lake. We don't really do anything with it." Hacking in there, driving in so the grass is going underneath the truck. You're thinking, "This is awesome." You turn up, you look at it. It's crystal clear, weedy, and you go, "Oh, this is very, very pleasant." It's about 15 acres, and syndicate now. Netted it, caught loads of fish. Decent sized fish, old fish, and in that respect, a lot of people would go, let's buy more, mix up the strains, do this, that. I would go, well, let's leave everything in there and just feed what's in there, because they've got that big for a reason. But and again, you don't learn until you get in there. We surveyed it and electrofished the margins, and there was 6 to 8 to 10 inch carp. Every single one we caught was nailed by cormorant. They all had markings on, and and that's why they were hiding in there. But that shows, okay, well, a few years ago there was probably excellent recruitment for a year or two, which probably slowed the growth rates down. And if you use that as an example, probably over the last 20 years, that's what I was talking about earlier. It's happened. The carp will actively breed in there. Some years have had massive recruitment. Other years they haven't. When they have, it slowed the growth rates down, and they're sped up as the cormorants. So the cormorants are helping in a way, but not. And you're just learning the whole time. So that lake, it's got some very beautiful fishing, and Charlie, the owner, he's made that into a really good syndicate now.
Yeah, and as well as cormorants predation, I think oxygen crashes as well are quite prevalent, aren't they? Every year you hear of it, and you think, why these places aren't doing more to prevent that? I mean,
it's education. They just don't understand a lot of them. It's too easy to blame that. I've heard so many places. Oh, we had a fish kill because of an oxygen crash. We had a fish kill because of an algal bloom. We had a fish kill because of this. It's like, yeah, but every single water, if it's wild lakes where no one knows anything about it, fine. Nature happens, but most of us we're dealing with places that there's someone responsible. There's a fishery manager or an owner responsible, and they have to step up and learn.
Basic early warning signs that people should be more vigilant towards.
For oxygen crash or for anything like that, really, is always
algae as well.
Visual monitoring. In the winter, when everything's cold, is when you should do all your work. You should be surveying your waters, sussing out what's going on. Nothing bad happens in the winter. All right, occasionally people say, it freezes over, it's really bad. And again, it's 100% different on a 20-acre gravel pit with not many fish in than it is on a commercial fishery full of fish. But early warning signs are always, if people say, I wait until the fish are gasping on the top before I worry about it, and I'll put the aerators on. It's too late then. Because they might not die, but they're stressed. And everything's linked to stress, everything. So the first thing to do when they're stressed, stop feeding, because you can't catch them. And without a doubt, I go to a lot of venues with too many fish in, and you net them in the winter, and there's loads of fish there, but the anglers don't catch them. And a lot of the time, the windows where they can catch them are very small, because the oxygen content might be dipping, and you might have a load of fish in there, but the first thing they do when they're stressed is not feed. Anglers only catch fish when they're feeding, and the fish uses the same parts of his body to feed as he does to breathe. So it stands to reason, really. And we find that by reducing the biomass, not just of carp but of other species, we don't like I say, we don't take people's fish away, but we'll put them into other lakes for them, or we'll help them with sorting paperwork out, or we'll even say we'll ring a fish dealer and they'll come pick them up, sort of thing. We don't want to get involved in that. But more often than not every time, but more often than not, reducing the numbers massively help. We do it at Horseshoe, and that's 60 acres, and we take roach out of there every year.
That was down to stress.
What the fish losses
with
on
the
there.
fish losses originally?
Probably, yeah. It would have been something like that. I mean, it was a long time before I was involved. But when you get large-scale fish kills on large waters like that, it's difficult. I mean, if you get the EA down there, they said, right, it's not disease because we've tested the fish. And you see a lot of them where they can't really put the finger on it, but there's always something. And normally it's I mean, they get so stressed, beating themselves up through spawn, and you're always going to lose a few as a result of that. But the knock-on effect, so you might not lose them for a month or so, and then you might find an old carcass, but it could still be as a result of stuff that happened through spawning.
What about people that have got an old stock of fish? You know, fisheries owners, they've got an old stock of fish, and it's like this do I or don't I, you know, sort of situation.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you introduce new fish when you've got a water with such old fish and you're trying to preserve them as long as possible?
Take farriers as a classic example. Farriers, everyone's paranoid about the fish in there. They're big, they're old, but when you look at them, they're in very good condition for their size and their age. It's a historic venue now. It's one of the few that hasn't been mucked around with, and you know, it's got the old original fish. You know, those fish aren't any super strain. They're just from garden ponds, basically little farm ponds. You know, and as are a lot of fish. And they're huge. It's a very shallow lake. It's quite a big lake. It's great. You know, there's loads in there, and everyone's paranoid about. I mean, if you listen to all them out, all they'd do is go and buy a load of mirrors and stick in there because it's commons. I'd leave it exactly how it is, and thankfully, we've now got the stock ponds at Horseshoe, which have all been done very, very, you know, to a real high standard. And the latest one, which is a lined pond, so it's completely offline from anything else. That's where we got the fry out of farriers and put in there, and now we've got genuine farriers fish coming on at Horseshoe, which we can safely. I mean, there's always risks stocking. You know, I mean, I speak to Viv a lot, and we've all stocked fish into lakes where we've lost fish that we've stocked, and there's loads of reasons. The difference is I don't have to sell loads of fish. That's not my main income, so I can be real picky about where we stuff fish. And we this year we stocked the first batch of fish back into farriers from the offspring. And I said, the second we did it, I said, well, the first one that dies, you know, they're going to say, oh, right, that's it. It's all because of that.
Yeah.
But farriers is no different than any other syndicate. You know, like I say, you go to some places that people are charging 50 quid to fish. You go to some place and they're charging 1,500 quid to fish. It's the same things. With the angler's mentality, it's the same. So many variables with the fish and the fishery management side of it. It's all pretty much the same. You've got a nucleus of moaners. You've got a nucleus of people who are really good anglers who keep quiet and just crack on. You've got one or two troublemakers that no one really wants on the syndicate or in the members' bike. So I don't understand why they're still there. So those dynamics between a club, they're all the same. Doesn't matter where you are in the country. That's the interesting thing. The people element is the same, but the environmental and the fish side of it is different every single place you go.
This farrier's offspring, what sort of size, what sort of year are those fish?
We put them in this not long ago. There's pictures online of it probably going in, and they were C3s and C4s. So
right.
The stock pond project, we've done it. It's been going a while now, and thankfully it's because Miles got me down. He came to see me talk at one of the seminars Viv ropes me into doing, and I just go on about what we do. Really, it's not a scientific study. I don't have a graph and a thing, and like some people go on about, you know, numbers and figures. I just say, well, this is what we've been doing this year, and here's a picture of a pretty fish, and this is why I do this, and this is why I wouldn't. But I have to do it like that because that's what I'm comfortable doing, and I think it's all just as relevant information as trying to prove that one sort of chalk from one quarry.
Don't you find that sort of language a lot more understandable to most people as well?
Yes, and in my report writing, and I learnt this years and years and years ago, I don't get too heavy, not because I'm lazy, but because some of my reports are really long, but at the same time they're direct and to the point. You know, if you blind people with science, you know, we can all go back for our college notes and write a load of fancy words down, but if they're irrelevant in the context of what you're trying to purvey to your client, and also if you're just doing it to make yourself sound clever, I'm not into any of that. You know, if I see an issue at a client, I'll say, right, this is why you need to stop doing that. This is why you need to start doing this, and you keep it as simple as possible. And it's hard enough to convince people to do some of these things anyway. They just want to buy fish. So when you have to be direct, and I've had some really good feedback over the years. You know, so I've still got a report you wrote me 10 years ago, and to me that's brilliant. I'm like, I'm chuffed, and because I care about it, I don't just want to go and chuck fish in a lake. I want to say, right, okay, if you do A, B, and C, we'll come back next year and then see what happens. When you go back they've got it, they understand, and they see, hang on, why was I doing this for all them years when I could have just been doing this? It takes a lot for people to
that's so satisfying though, isn't it, to be able to, I mean I know someone else owns these fisheries, but you must feel a sense of responsibility if you go back after a year and see.
Yeah, and now we've got some people, we're going back after 20 years, so like I say, there's no loyalty in what we do. I haven't got
What do clients least like doing, that you suggest most commonly?
Feeding, planting, taking snap, anything that's going to upset anglers, because they're worried. They've been so conditioned into thinking, I can't upset any anglers. And I point out there's 4 million anglers in the country and a few thousand fisheries, so you don't have to worry too much. I'm not anti. I've been a fisherman all my life. What I just hate is how lucky anglers are, and a lot of them don't appreciate how lucky they are to have what they've got. And when they go and take the piss, and when they argue, and when they chuck their toys out their pram, or when they just don't show any respect to fishery owners, it really gets to me. Because I work for fishery owners, and some people will say to me, "Oh, you're moaning at anglers. If it weren't for anglers, you wouldn't have a job." It's like, I'd have a job. I've always had a job, and I'll always have a job. It might be a slightly different job if there's no fishermen. I'd be gutted because I wouldn't be able to go fishing but it's not going to happen in my lifetime when you can't go fishing, because there's enough people like me and people, and Viv, when we were at college, when we do these seminars at Sparsholt, the people in that room care about the industry, and they're good people, and that's what we need more of. We need more of that. We need more of that coming together. Those seminars are brilliant, because, and I'm really proud to go and be involved in those, because Viv and people like Bernice Brewster, who are authoritative figures, who know their stuff, just to be involved with them and to have a valid opinion and get respected in the industry.
You have annual seminars, do you?
Yeah, and it's good. It's some people fall asleep when people talk about stuff that isn't, very exciting. I think that's why Viv used to get me on there, because I just used to have a laugh really, and not be too serious. But some people have been on there and sort of tried to convince what the different types of dye do in lakes, and very monotone and all very valid, but.
I heard what you were saying about dyes as well. They're trying to tell you about dyes when you tell them the water's already coloured. You don't need it.
Again, it's something else that I don't use, and we don't. But again, I've been to places where it as a last option, it's helped people out. But I'd go, everything I do is natural. Everything I do, it wants to be simple and natural. And you can solve 90% of your problems by just following simple steps really. And people need that guidance. And if you've got a report from someone who says they know what they're doing and you're willing to follow it, I think it's good to follow it. And I always say to people, do it for a year. Just follow these things for a year. And if it doesn't work, then you can rip it up and chuck them.
Start again.
Yeah.
But give me a year.
Yeah.
Give me a year. I was listening to Viv Shears actually yesterday. He was talking about fishing line actually, and the recycling stuff that it's mental, isn't it?
How he has the time to do all these things, but what he's done with the national recycling thing is unbelievable. Yeah, it's amazing. They've collected some millions and millions.
It's scary
of
the amount of line we leave in lakes, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It's fantastic what he's doing and making it. Putting that, we've got him a horseshoe, making these things. So you've got to make it easy though, because otherwise anglers just won't bother. So the more of these bins you can have to put line in, and same with Steve Carey. He's making Reworked. He's making making stuff using a lot of plastics from fishing, going into making furniture, and I think all that stuff's great. And we need to do more of it, And that's why I keep saying things like, well, it is relevant using cereals instead of fish meal pellets, because the more we can do to be strong and unified and professional as an industry, all of us. Look at this building and how amazing this building is compared to some tin pot company making dodgy bits of tackle or whatever. It's that sort of thing, and you have to have high standards, because we're all gonna get judged more and more in future, animal welfare wise. So the more we can do to prove that what we're doing here is important, and we all love fishing and we all love fish, but you've got to do it in a sensible way and show that what you're doing is, and looking at and be respectful, not just of the fish but of surroundings. I go to places, I don't like venues that are barren of any vegetation, that are just holes in the ground that have got too many fish in. And they really genuinely are there just to try and make a few quid. They've got no care or interest or knowledge or understanding about fish welfare, and it's horrible. I don't like going to those, but when I turn up at those places, then I have to kind of hold my tongue a bit, but I'm not very good at doing that either. So you lose clients without a doubt. I should be making loads more money, but I should without a doubt. You go to some place and you're like, I'm not going to like these people, because you look at their fishery and I judge them. Seriously, it's a horrible thing to say. It is. It's horrible, but I can't help it. I've always had my heart on my sleeve when it comes to my job, and I think it's a blessing and a curse because it's got me where I am, but it's lost me plenty of work.
Yeah, but just people. If you can afford to lose the work, I guess it's all right.
You can't do all the work.
Actually, talking of like finding like line in the water, you mentioned that you found some pretty unusual things in the water, haven't you, while you've been on your travels?
Yeah, this is when if the boys are here now and we're at a fishery, they roll their eyes in the back of their heads because you always get asked what's the weirdest thing that you found. And I try and get them to tell.
This is quite a weird one, Toe.
I was going to say, I'm looking forward to this.
Again, it was very, very early on, very, very young. And we were in London. It was before I worked on my own. I was working for the company I worked for when I was very, 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 very young. And the job was they were filling in part of the Paddington Basin behind the railway line there, and they'd blocked off about, I think it was a kilometre of the canal, and they blocked it off. All they'd done is put ton sandbags up, a kilometre that way, and we had to take the fish out of this stretch and go and put them in the other stretch. And yeah, I was really young, and you couldn't really net it because of the amount of debris. So we were electrofishing, and we still had, obviously, we had stop nets every now and then because otherwise you're just chasing fish around. It's totally the wrong thing to do. So you wade in where you can. Some parts are deep, but the amount of debris, we found dead dogs, dead dogs that fighting dogs that had been chucked in and weighted down. Unfortunately, it's horrible, and tons of stuff like briefcases, and there was some hoodlums stood either side. It's horrible, really, because it's all high-rise buildings either side. So you're in there like this, trying to do your job, and people don't know what you're doing, and people are beckoning you over, and I ain't going anywhere near them. Yeah, we found all sorts. Bottle of poison that day, unexploded mine thing.
They seem to find those in the Thames all the time.
Well, the police divers were there, and the Environment Agency were there. We were the only ones in the water because it was like, at fish welfare, get the fish out first. We're like, where's all this stuff? We might blow up. So we're in the water, and so you're going like loads of fish because people say, there's no fish in there, all that much. Well, there was, because again, what I was saying earlier about at the right time, the nutrients were making everything flourish at that time. So even though there was a lot of rubbish in there, a lot of just floating debris, at that particular time, it was at the point in that stretch of canal's life where it was full of fish. But you could have gone back 6 months later or a year later, and it would have been totally different. You should always have that in the back of your mind as well when you go into wild bits of water. It's like you have to make hay while the sun shines sometimes, because you could go back these, in remote places, and they might not be there in 6 months. The fish or the lake these days, especially with the water level. But yeah, so I'm going along like this, and even though I was young, I'd already done it for quite a long time. So when you bump into something, you always got neoprene waders on. You always figure out, you think that's wood or that's metal, or sort of bumped into this thing. Got it up with the probe, and it was just basically about 2.5, 3 foot long. It had it was like black bin liners with bits of grey stuff sticking out of it, like furry stuff. And it sort of wasn't really floating, so I just sort of angled it to the side, and one of these guys was on the side, and he picked it up and took it out. Didn't think nothing of it, and it was basically a human leg that had been thrown out of a window of a morgue.
What?
In a hospital. Yeah, I can't remember. I'll get it wrong.
Why was it thrown out of a window?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
there's a spare leg there. We're just
yeah. I don't know, but apparently that was the story. It got thrown out of the window of a morgue, and I want to say St Mary's Hospital, but there's a hospital there. One of these big high-rise buildings, a hospital. I mean,
St Mary's is Paddington, isn't it? Yeah,
that might be it then. I mean, I think I was 18, something like that. But yeah, it was a leg that they traced back, and it got thrown out of a morgue window. God knows when. I mean, who are they employing, these people? I mean, it's like
a leg.
Yeah,
I don't know if I want to go back in the water after that either.
But the other thing on that day,
I'd be worried I'd find the rest of the body.
Yeah, exactly. Where's the rest of it? Yeah.
But we caught a load of fish, big carp, 30-pound carp, big perch, 3 or 4 pound perch. Lots and lots of fish.
Okay, Andrew, I mentioned at the start of the show as well that you've been made a director, one of the directors of the Carp Society. How did you get in with all the Carp Society stuff in the first place?
That was just one of these things. It was amazing, really. I'm so chuffed to be involved. It all started again from a Sparsholt link. Viv had asked me to do another talk, and I was talking about snag removal in this particular talk, which a lot of carp anglers hate. They don't want anything touched on any lake ever.
Snag removal and Horseshoe Lake.
Yeah. And Miles Carter, who's the fishery manager at Horseshoe, was watching, listening, and he came to talk to me after, and I get on really well with Miles. He's sound. He's a good bloke. He's got all the right intentions for the Carp Society and just fishing in general.
I said to you, I listened to his radio. That's quite unique. That is actually, Toby. You might want to. I don't think you probably like the music, but it's quite a unique way of doing it.
Yeah,
it's kind of in
What's the
between a
music?
podcast and an interview.
Yeah.
He's got his own radio show that he puts. Is it once a month he puts that out?
Yeah, it's just really. I like it. It's kind of old school, and I think his voice as well. It kind of makes it quite unique, really. And we've done that.
Because he sounds quite nonchalant, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But he's actually not, is he? He cares a lot. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's definitely the right person for that job. But basically, he approached me afterwards and said, "Oh, do you want to come and have a look around Horseshoe?" And I went, "Well, yeah." I only live 40 minutes away from there, and so I went there, and I was like, I don't know how many years ago it was, but I was there, and we went for a walk around the lake. And he said, well, it was basically it was all about the snags. He said, well, what would you do? And I said, I'd get them out.
Whereabouts were the snags again?
There was three main areas, which was in the lagoon, which is the nearest little bay to the Tim Paisley Lodge, and then in Summer Bay there's basically the bay there as well, and further up what they call no cut corners, quite bad up there. I mean, the whole lake had snaggy issues, but there's these three main bits, and they roped them off. But the rope, and I never get that because the ropes are just full of leads and snag and line and stuff anyway. And I said I'd get them out. I said, but the anglers are going to moan because they've got no real. They think if you remove underwater snags, the fish won't go to those areas again, which is nonsense.
When was this?
I think it was 6 years ago.
Right.
Something like that.
So the snags there, because they used to be, I mean...
It's like a forest, underwater forest.
In the early 90s, the snags in the lagoon area were just, I mean, they were living out the water and everything.
Yeah.
So they'd grown back, basically, then. And
yeah. If you leave a tree... if you plant a tree too close to a lake, one day it'll fall in. It'll grow up. Most of the time, they fall in eventually. You shouldn't plant trees within 7-8 metres of a lake, in my opinion. You can plant little shrubs. Certainly... heavily plant decent marginal plants, because I bang on about that all the time because of the enormous benefits. But trees that fall in lakes, to me, represent an issue with fish safety, and everyone argues about it. It's like, oh yeah, but I love it. They need that. They need to hide under there. That's where they need to be. It's like, well, they don't. They'll go under there if they can, but they don't need to be under there. We remove underwater snags, not about removing every tree but you never go and destroy the habitat, but at the same time you're replacing it with more useful habitat. So every single time we do snag removal, we replace with marginal plants, and by doing that, you're creating a safer environment to fish in, and also you are improving the water quality by doing that. There's a lot of these, and Horseshoe's a classic example of that. Those areas were two of them were. There was the odd hard patch, but a lot of silt accumulates under these areas because you've got lots and lots of trees that have fell in. The wind doesn't get under there. It's just quite stagnant. And the fish go under there because obviously it's just natural cover. But then in a lake the size of Horseshoe, natural cover is weed bed. And in the summer, loads and loads of it's covered in weed. And they just create their own tunnels under it. I never get the argument, they need the sanctuary. They need to go and hide when they're not getting caught. It's like, well... There's so many other options, and we basically had a 25-ton digger on there for 2 weeks and went around there, and no one actually threw anything at me, but you could feel the daggers in your back. And one guy, bearing in mind when you do this for a living and you're in the water, fish follow you around in the warmer months. If you're stirring up the bottom, this was after spawning, way after spawning. So you go around the digger and you're getting rubbish out of the water, and we found carcasses. Unfortunately, which kind of you think, well, that should prove that this needs doing. The amount of line and stuff you find, and
you think the carcasses were related to tethered
yeah,
fish?
they're all tethered. They are tethered fish. There's no other way. Yeah, they're tethered fish, not just a fish that's near the snags. We found carp and tench tethered. There's videos of anything, pretty much everything I'm talking about. There's video evidence of it all on my social media. But basically, we went round and did it all. But while you're going around, the fish are following you around because you're in the water stirring it up. Mm. And there's one old boy on there he's one of these people who probably fishes it once a year in his car. He turns up in his car and he fishes it, and he was absolutely distraught. And he said, I've booked. He's a retired gentleman. I've had this planned for a long time. I've booked this off, and you've ruined my week. I was like, well, do you want to? If you come and follow, the fish are following us when we're stuck. If you just, oh no, I fish this swim every time I come. and I always fish the same way. And it's like, and you think, well, that's probably why you're not catching anything anyway. But you're like, well, why don't you just? And I always say to people, well, why don't you come and have a look at what we're doing? And no, you stand there, typical, arms crossed. Well, do you want to come and have a look? Because there's lots of fish, and they're actually following us. Like this bit we're doing now, which was nowhere near where we was fishing. I said, but I'd drop a line in there when we leave, because the fish are following us, because we're rooting up the bottom, and they're really following us. You know, everyone thinks these are massively pressured fish. Fish just want to feed, and if the oxygen's right, they want to feed at the right time, not just all the time. And that's what was happening. It was way after spawn, and they're building themselves up for the winter. So whenever we put the digger bucket in, basically, and the fish were there within hours.
Were they?
And that happens a lot.
Yeah.
When we're planting, you know, when you're in the water planting and you stir in the bottom up planting.
It's like moving water. It's like you
yeah.
put a pump on or something, isn't it? It's the same thing.
Yeah. So anyway, we did that 2 weeks, and you wouldn't notice. Looking at the lake, you wouldn't notice a difference. But it made a huge difference to the fish. And it just moved them around the lake more. So instead of there being a few hot pegs and you know, it pushed the fish around. I know Miles said the year after that, looking back, that year after we did it, the catch rates were massively improved. And they'd just finished a program of stocking. And I was sort of saying, well, you don't need to keep buying fish. You know, put a stop to that. And the money they were spending on stocking was like, let's start proactively managing the lake and looking at the stock pond issue. And
were they seeing the benefits of that stocking, as you said before?
Yeah.
I mean, the fish were,
of course,
they were doing well.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it is a massive, don't get me wrong, I'm not against people stocking fish at all. I've sold thousands and thousands and thousands of fish in my time, and I've got no problem with people buying fish. But at the same time, I know 100% in my heart and my head that you don't need anywhere near as many fish in a lake to make it good fishing as people think you do. And in a lake that's that big, yes, you need plenty of fish, and the fish are great. You know, they've stocked a lot of fish in there over a 5-year period, and they've done really, really well. But they're in 60 acres. If they don't do well in there, then you know, it's a massive bit of water. So they've done really, really well. They're all coming through. We should do a 40 this year, and there's so many big fish in there. It's just
you caught a nice fish the other day, didn't you?
I
did.
You
sent me a picture of a 32-pounder, which
I did, yeah. Yes, it was my fishing on Horseshoe, and anyone who works there or goes there regularly will know exactly how I go. I turn up, and I'll go where the least amount of anglers are. So if Summer Bay's busy and if everyone's catching and everyone's in Summer Bay, I will go in Winter Bay. And I've got 3 or 4 pegs around the lake that I really like, and I've been lucky. You know, I've built swims on that lake. That's 32.5.
That is an absolute corker.
That's typical of the horseshoe fish.
So are we? That's a newer one, isn't it? I think. I mean that.
Carl knows. He's got a name.
Know. Actually,
I know it's got a name.
Has it?
Yeah.
So did he say whether that was a new one or an older one?
I don't know. I don't honestly. I don't know the swim names like they do. I don't know the fish names. But I catch a few. I think for the amount of time I put in to my fishing, I do all right. In fairness, I fished. Yeah, I've had a good, but you learn so much,
and you just enjoy it.
Well, I do. I sleep. When I go fishing, I sleep a lot. I go fishing, I sleep really well in a bivvy, and like that. That was Wednesday morning, 5:30. I caught that. So obviously we don't retain fish, we don't sack or anything like that. That's literally the sun's just coming up, and Carl came over and took the picture. The good thing about having Carl on site, he's part of his job, is anyone catches a big fish, he'll go around at any time and take a picture of it.
What time's he on site from?
He lives there. He lives there.
Oh, right.
Lives on site. It's his job.
Blimey, that is a 24-hour job.
Yep, and he loves it, and he's great. I was championing having him there the whole time, because a lake that again, Horseshoe to me is a history water. It's somewhere that, you know, I used to read about when I was a kid. You know, reading all Tim's sort of stuff about it when I was at college, and sitting there and drawing diagrams and going, oh my god. And now I'm involved, and we net it, and we've built swims on it, and now well, that was the whole joke. You know, I went from ruining it. A lot of people were going, oh, he's ruined Horseshoe because I can't catch a fish I caught, you know, out of the snag swim, blah blah blah. But you're not doing things for one person. You're doing things for the benefit of the entire fishery. And then they made me a director. So, and I was absolutely, you know, I love all the history of it, and having the museum, and you know, just having one of my rods hanging up in the museum is a big deal for me. And Greg Fletcher and Derek and the people involved now, you know, is a good team of people, and I'm just really happy to be involved. It's difficult because you've got an older generation there who I think it's difficult for them to grasp. You know, they've got a lot of they want to be a lot more sort of recognised, I think, in fishing, and because it's 40 years old this year, I think the kids nowadays, they don't really, everything happens so fast with kids these days, especially with media and the youngsters. Everything's got to be on your phone, and the companies now are putting out, you know, such good content on social media, and that's where I think we should be.
You think Horseshoe should do more digital stuff?
And we will do. That is going to happen anyway.
Films and I think Craig was saying as well, there's a nice healthy number of data of members and anglers fishing there. You don't want too many, do you? I mean, you've got a lot of room there, but you can fill that place up probably quite easily.
Well, again, it upsets quite a lot of people, and when I go on about numbers of anglers, it's like fishing is quite cheap, really. People go, "Oh, it's not. I had to spend £2 on a pint of maggots." It's like, well, let's be a bit realistic. You know, fishing's quite a cheap pastime for what we do, because you don't have to do that. You can get, you know, you can go fishing for next to nothing, and there's loads of places you can go and spend £5-6 on a day ticket, or you can go down the river. There's still a lot of free fishing you can do in this country. And I've always said, and it's my job to go and work for fishery owners and private clients, and I sort of say, well, look, would you rather have 100 people on your land paying you £5, or would you rather have, you know, a dozen people paying you £500? And at the end of the day, long and the short of it is, the more grief you get from day ticket anglers, and the more hassle you get from the more people, you're going to go down the route of less people, which means you can charge more money because it's exclusivity. And nowadays, the angling holiday business, this is even nothing to do with COVID. I mean, it's just escalated because of COVID. But yeah, I don't want loads of people.
Do you see there being some sort of sense of responsibility, being a member of the Carp Society as well?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, you know, I just want, like I said to you before, I want people to respect everything about just being a fisherman and going fishing. You know, we've all got a responsibility to do this sort of stuff. Everyone likes going out and having a beer and a barbecue and talking rubbish and having a laugh and falling in and all that. But there's times and places to do that. You know, if you've got a lake exclusive and the gate's shut and you're sensible, then fine, do what you like. But if you're there in a public park and there's people there doing all manner of things, don't moan at the kids for, you know, walking past. You've just and the majority of people are obviously great, and the majority of anglers do understand this, but it's the ones that don't get too much of a mention, and unfortunately the only way to is to stamp it out. And it's no good just being naive and sort of saying, oh well, let's not talk about it, because I think we should be talking about these things and making it more like, I use another analogy about golf. It's like, we couldn't go to
don't mention that game at the moment.
But we couldn't go and play golf on a links course dressed like we are now. We couldn't just go and turn up and go, all right mate, I've played golf before, I've been to France and played golf, I parred a hole once, I want to play on it, because they go, no, I'll jog on, sonny. Whereas fishing, anglers expect, all right mate, I caught a 50 in France, I want to go fishing, and they expect to be able to do whatever they want. And I think it's about time more and more, and the ones that do, see the venues that do have more of a strict policy and like, nah.
I mean, people turning up to Horseshoe and stuff. I mean, so it's an education centre potentially as well for people as well, isn't it? Really?
And that's what we're going to do a lot more of that as well. And because I think that's what I mean. You know, I don't want to get involved in how the Carp Society is run, but certainly my involvement in fishery management means I'm going to want to have an influence on certain things within the Carp Society. And I'm just, like I say, I'm just proud to be involved. I think it's in a healthy place now. The two lakes are doing really well. And they're both fishing really well. So spawning time's always horrible for everyone, especially on those two lakes, because they're big. There's lots of fish, lots of big fish involved. But no, it's in a good place. But we will be doing a lot more. What would
you ideally do with spawning? How would you, if you were running the lake yourself?
Regarding angling?
Regarding spawning.
Just leave them alone. You know, it's
close to the lake.
Yeah. With Horseshoe, we try and do our best, and like Miles will shut, because not always, but they mostly go into Summer Bay, and he'll shut parts of Summer Bay. But then whatever swim you shut up to, they'll go in the one next to it and cast back into, you know, you got people who don't care. If everyone was sensible, you wouldn't have to worry, you know. And my birthday's in June, and I'm going fishing for a week there to a totally private lake, got all to myself, which isn't open to the public yet. It will be eventually, but
that sounds all right, doesn't it? That sounds ideal.
And because I've got it for a week, I've got friends coming and going throughout the week. It's not a big enough lake to have loads of people there, so people are coming in drip scrap, which is absolutely fine. And I've said they might be spawning then, but there's other species in there, and if they are, we just won't fish. we just swim in there, or just just have a barbecue. It's not about, for me, it's not about that. I'm not catch at all costs, I never have been. And of course it's partly to do because we see more fish in a day in the winter than people see in the lifetime. And we've graded more big carp and seen more big carp than 90% of the people you're ever going to meet. Even a fish farmer, they see fish for a short period of time in the winter. Me and Ben netted one of the lakes in France, and we graded 20 tons of carp in a day. And we went on and did 2 or 3 other lakes. So you do get to see so many fish. But yeah, if it was me, I would shut. And financially, some fisheries can't do that. So you think, okay, if you're not going to shut, then... And I am big on not taking the fish out of the water. I think it does make a big difference. But then people go, I can't swim, or it's dangerous. It's like, no, most of the time it comes down to...
We said about a film going around on social media, and that's a good illustration to everybody. That is why you need to follow rules and just use common sense
and choose where you fish. If you don't like rules of a fishery, don't try and be cool with the lads and rule breaking and pulling. Don't do that. Just don't fish there. Don't fish. Go somewhere where it fits in with how you think. I don't like all this. It's okay not to pay, and I don't like all this. Oh yeah, sneakily I'm doing. Just don't, because if the day these people get their own fishery, oh my god.
Different attitude,
and we've all learnt that. A lot of people have learnt that. And
one thing that struck me as well, going around Horseshoe the other day, you were talking about the stock ponds. I didn't realise what you'd actually done with those, and they're huge. And I remember the stock ponds. I used to have a 10-year Horseshoe ticket, and we got a picture up on the screen now of one of the stock ponds there. So this one's behind the lagoon on Horseshoe, isn't it? So you got the smaller fish in this one.
It's the lagoon stock pond. That's the first one we did. When I first got there, it's quite bizarre. There's lots of different progressive videos of it. But basically, when I got there, it was gin clear, full of weed, and it looked like it was about a foot deep. And first thing I did, obviously, I got my waders on and went in there, and it was like walking on a waterbed. And gas was coming up, and it was layers and layers and layers of years and years and years of blanket weed. I said, well, you're not getting that out in a hurry. We'll have to get a digger in, drain it. Draining it's difficult because you can see the main lakes there, and it's all gravel. They weren't clay lined, which is a shame, because if you'd have clay lined that, it would be like an isolated pond. But so to drain that, you can get it down a fairway, and then you're trying to drain 60 acres or whatever it is. So it's quite tricky.
You mentioned before about another contractor that wanted to dig the lake without actually lining it, and
not that one, but yeah, there's a pond. I don't know if there's a picture on there, but there's one higher up, and they just wanted to do a scrape. But it's like 15 foot higher than the lake, so it wouldn't have had any water in it. You'd have had to, the bank
too far above the water table, and
that needed lining. But in a way, that served a good purpose as well, because anyway, that one got a digger in, just dragged all the muck out, and obviously it fills up really quick again through the water table, and we put a pipe in so it fills up even quicker. And that was the first one we had, and then we moved a few fish in there from the lake, myself and Miles, and just started feeding them really and planting it. That's key. And then we moved on to the other lakes. The other lakes, you couldn't even see one of them. It was completely surrounded by just no light ray getting in, a horrible algal bloom. It was just black and dark and horrible. Rip that one out. This is what you can do when you're not buying fish, you see, because if you're not spending loads of money on fish every year, you can invest it in stuff that's going to help forever, not just for a short amount of time. So moving around the whole site, they're all done now. And then the new one is... I love the new one because it's a lined pond. Planting it's tricky. It's gravel. There's not loads of clay or topsoil. So you're planting. When we planted it, you're planting in that much topsoil. You want to be planting in that much clay, really. Sort of between 2 and 6 inches of clay at least. But so you're planting, cutting them right down, and planting them all around there, praying that the birds are going to leave them alone, and praying that even a strong
irises,
wind.
Is that
mainly iris.
Yeah, they look nice. Yeah, they're going to be.
Yeah, I use a mix of plants. I'm really quite picky about it now, but it makes a huge difference. So it's all gone very, very well, and they've bred really, really well. But again, honestly, Simon, it's because we keep it real simple, and thankfully, and I'm really thankful to Miles, because he's basically said, if I've suggested something, that he's just let me get on with it. So it's a bit like with feeding Ben's pellet. They could have easily said, "Oh no, we want to feed fish meal pellets because it's what everyone says we should do." But we've kept everything so simple on that site, and I'm really, really proud of just being involved, in fairness. But it's so easy to get tied up in common trends and real, and I'm glad we don't have to do that there. So everything that's happening there with those stock ponds is I think it's brilliant, because we're keeping everything dead simple. It's just fish, food, plants, and simple fishery management, and it can be that simple in any of these situations. It's people that make it complicated, not the fish.
Are you seeing more and more fisheries doing this now, though?
Yeah, and rightly so. I think fishing is there's more lakes and there's more anglers. I don't know about more anglers, but there's definitely more lakes than it was 20 years ago. But there's still room for more. There's people invest in, say to me, is it saturated, or should I be looking for big? I don't care. No one cares about travelling for fishing now, and because a lot of it is holiday fishing. People are building exclusive fishing lakes, and that's certainly what we're doing now. We don't want day tickets. We want book a whole lake for a week for a group of mates and stuff. But yeah, a lot more people are becoming proactive. Like I said earlier about some angling clubs that are actually starting to get youngsters involved and engaged, and without a doubt, all the social media stuff helps from a fishing point of view and a fishery management point of view. Because if you get the kids involved, you're laughing.
Helps. Places like Harrow and stuff, when they started, because you complain when the old fish are gone, and you know what I mean. That's a good way of maintaining that sort of bloodline, and
it teaches people how quick things happen. Those ponds have gone from nothing to producing. Bearing in mind it's been a few years since we've done the first one, so we've already put God knows how many tens of thousands of pounds worth of fish into Horseshoe from those ponds. And you get to a point really quickly where you have to sell some, so you get in their health check fish. So we've sold a few, which is great, especially when we haven't, because of COVID, haven't been able to have missed out on a couple of the shows. A bit of it, and the Carp Society costs money to run, so you need to get as much income as you can. So it's nice to be able to.
Yeah, that's been handy.
Because it costs money to do all that. I mean, lining the pond was expensive, digging them was expensive.
So the intention with those ponds was to stock Carp Society waters, but then maybe it's and help out other people when we can. I mean, having those ponds, you're always going to have enough fish. It's like if you start fish farming, you soon realise, oh my God, I need to dig more ponds, because if you're doing it right, you just end up with endless amounts of fish. So it flips it on its head really. A fishery owner that's like, oh, I need to keep buying fish. And we go around going, you need to take fish out, or you need to, build fish. Like I say, the two go hand in hand if it's done properly.
And the fish part of fishery management, I don't think it's difficult, because all they really want to do is eat and breed and grow. And if you let them do those things, you end up with loads of fish in any environment, really. So, but you have to be able to manage it. If you just leave it, or or just you just got to have a basic understanding of fish husbandry, and you're laughing, really.
But no, I mean, to go from a consultant to being a director, and I guess it's nice being associated with the Carp Society as well, isn't it? For
me, it's great. Like I said to you, I used to sit and draw the Carp Society logo on my college notes. I've got a picture somewhere of one of my load of college notes, and there's little diagrams, and they're either out of that book there, that carp-led book that Danny did years and years ago, and I used to sit and draw intricate carp rigs and lead arrangements, or the Carp Society logo, and learn how to draw that when I was a kid. So but that's happened a lot in my career, where you find yourself in these situations going, what's going? Yeah, it's brilliant, but you got to love it. And I'm mid-40s now, and I still love it. It's not a job really. I get paid. I care about it. I care about my clients' waters. I care about looking after them and their fish. But at the same time, I'm not a yes man. I never, if someone's asked me my opinion, I'll tell them what I think. And now I get paid. I've been getting paid to do that a lot. And you have to have self-confidence, and you have to believe in what you're doing. But just looking at the fisheries we're controlling and helping manage, I'm within my rights to give the advice I do. And if someone asks me a question and I don't know the answer, if I've read it, that's not good enough for me. I want to have seen it and seen things work in my own working environments. So, and that's just how I've always done it, really.
Yeah. Well, no, fair play. It's working for you anyway. That's for sure. Actually, when people come on the show, I say, "I'll just send us a few pictures." And
well, you did say send.
Yeah, so he sent me 80 pictures.
Well, no, you said the more the better. You said the more the better. So, and I was sitting there thinking, I don't know what else.
I changed my mind on that yesterday afternoon.
Yeah,
but no, some of the pictures were great. And you mentioned before you've got a well-known sister. In musical terms, anyway.
In West End, she's not a pop star, but
no. But I Wikipedia'd her actually, and there's loads. Your sister's Carrie Ellis.
Yeah, she does a bit of singing.
She does a bit of singing. That's an understatement, isn't it?
Yeah, she does. She does a bit of singing. She does all right. She's just moved house and
she does a bit of singing.
She's just moved house and she's very, very. She's quite amazing, to be fair. She's got 2 kids. She's got a great husband, and she's strong. She's a strong woman. But she's just amazing, really. The stuff she's achieved, and we both had all this when we were kids. We both do jobs we absolutely love, and we were both told.
That's a nice picture there, isn't it?
We were told. Yeah, my sister's the one on the left. we were both. That's Brian May, and then what's his name, Ben Shepherd, and I can't remember the lady's name from This Morning or one of them morning TV shows. But yeah, when we were at school, what do you want to do when I want to go fishing? Yeah, but what do you want to do for a job? Well, that's what she had all the time. Well, I want to be a singer. Yeah, but what do you want to do for a job? Well, I want to be a singer. And she missed out on a lot of stuff. When her mates were going, when you get to that age, I'm lucky. We both sort of went away. She's 3 years younger than me. But she went and she got a place at Lane, which is like this uber hardcore dancing college thing in London. And she went away and did that when her mates were going away on girly holidays. So she missed out on quite a lot of that. But obviously friends that sort of said, oh, she's gone off and done that, they soon want to be friends again when you can get tickets to stuff and are selling out, Covent Garden shows and the Royal Albert Hall, and then they want tickets. And it's the same with me. Like, people haven't seen footage. Oh, can you get me this? It's like, oh, I said no.
Where does but you've both obviously got a strong work ethic. I mean, that comes from your parents.
Yeah, they both worked. They both always had jobs when we were kids growing up. Like I say, Dad was in the police. He retired at 50, and he always said he was going to retire at 50. To be fair to him, but and we had a really good upbringing. It was really just, we didn't have any sort of real dramas. We just had a really nice upbringing, and we're lucky. You look at other people and you think, God, we're lucky. But yeah, she's always worked really hard. But she's had the same sort of things happen to her in her career as I am. It's all very well. You make your own luck, and luck only takes you so far anyway. And you get given opportunities, and if you put yourself out there. And her sort of, that was I got her to go fishing as well.
How did that trip go?
Good.
She done all right, didn't she? Looking at that.
Yeah, she doesn't. She'll do anything.
Yeah.
She's not scared, and the kids are the same. Like Alfie's already climbing, and he's already done a bit of swinging across stuff, and he's had a few falls and that. And Freddie's the little prettier one. They're there. I think that's I'll get it wrong. 7 and 4. They're young.
You're going to be in trouble if you get that wrong, aren't you?
Yeah, well, they're lovely little kids. It's annoying. You go around there and she moved house during lockdown. You go around her house and it's like we're totally different when it comes to things like that. Like, my house is the size of this office, and her house is amazing. And I sat there and it is lovely. And you go, it's not bad for a bit of singing. But yeah, she's done fantastically well. I'm super proud of her. She holds herself very well. She's brilliant with her fans, and she does a podcast.
She needs to do more fishing, doesn't she? She needs to come on here. We need more female guests actually on here as well.
Yeah, and again, she's got me tickets to stuff, and she's met everyone. She has met everyone. It's ridiculous and stuff, and she's so humbling because she don't care. She doesn't tell you about stuff. You have to find out, and I'll go around there, and she's met everyone. It's but you do get used to it, I suppose. And for me, when she was much younger, she was on cruise ships. When she started doing that, you earn good money doing that. So I didn't have to worry about her after that. And that's a bit of a weight off, because when you got You worry about your sister then when you were young? Yeah, because she's blonde hair, blue eyes, really pretty little thing. And you just, of course, you worry about her as an older brother. But when she started sort of getting that sort of level of work, you think, well, I know financially she's going to be fine now, because she wants to go to work, and she's obviously talented and she works at it. And I think anyone in that profession, performing arts, they get so many, no matter who you are, you get knocked back all the time. And nowadays, especially with a lot of these younger kids, again, not all of them, but a lot of them, if they get any of that kind of knockbacks, they'll just go and fall to bits. So you need to be strong. If you want to be successful in everything, you've got to be willing to upset some people and not go out your way to do it. But you can't please everyone, and not everyone's going to like what you're doing. So if you can deal with that, then fair play to you, because that's what me and her both done that in our careers. You can see that. You can't do everything for everyone all the time.
You mentioned Kev Greeningham as well as a close friendship there. I know you said about the horseshoe stuff, wasn't it, early in the show?
Yeah, I met Kev. The first time I met Kev was actually we were doing something at Woburn Abbey many years ago with Matt Hayes, and they were trying to promote the fishing on there, which never really came off because I think the estate were worried about security. But I met him there when he was doing Angling Times or Improve Your Course Fishing, one of the two. Got on really well with him, with his flask and his Man City supporting, which is a bit weird. But Kev was brilliant. He did a lot for me when I was working at the fishery in the Cotswolds. He came and did lots of filming bits and pieces when I first moved to the Cotswolds, and he just championed my work ethic basically, and sort of really appreciated how I wanted to make fisheries a bit more sustainable and a bit more responsible. Like I said to you earlier about, I want someone to have a responsibility, not just say, oh well, that happened because it's fish, so not my fault. Yes, there are loads of things you can do to prevent most issues in our job. There really is, and he loved all that, and he did some pieces on me in magazines, and it was great. And then we were due to go to a lake for a guy I'd met, and then the lake wasn't far from where Kev lived. That's why I got him involved, and I sort of said, well, you can come down with me, and you can decide where the pegs go and stuff. And he loved any of it. He was brilliant, genuine, lovely guy. And so we went down there, and we did the night, and we fished, and we had a bottle of wine, and within a few months I spoke to him, and his health was deteriorating, and he died, and it was really sad. It was, but it's always the wrong people, It's always the good people who die young. And so I got to know his wife, and we were wanting to do something like to celebrate his life. So we did it at Leamington Lakes, and thankfully Brian Scoyles got involved, because Brian Scoyles knows everybody, and he's brilliant. And I knew a few people. I got Ian McMillan to come down. We had Terry Hearn, Ian McMillan, Bill Cottam. I mean, we had everyone down there. There was I don't know how many anglers. There's a good picture which I couldn't find. It was in the Angling Times, sent a spread of all the celebrity anglers that were there. And then I think there's a couple of videos. I think Toby Gill did one, and Sky Sports did one.
Everyone got behind him. Yeah.
And it was great, and it was just a celebration of him, really. It was awesome, yeah.
I mean, he was a gentle, unintrusive sort of guy that just come across well, wasn't he? And very sadly missed.
Yeah, had a great career in fisheries, and he was very good at his job. He very patient and very understanding, and just loved it. He was great. So yeah, it's always a shame when stuff like that happens, but at least we gave him a bit of a send off, thankfully. And I was proud again. I was just lucky and proud to be involved with that. It's like the amount of people that turned up and were supportive of it, and yeah, it's brilliant. I'm just glad to be involved with that, with all that sort of stuff, really. Yeah,
it's nice to be involved with that. Actually, talking of cover pictures, you sent me a picture of the Angling Times with a comment on it. Was that your?
No sponsorship deal out of that. I mean, nowadays,
come on,
nothing. I didn't get nothing out of that. No, it's just a massive fish, and it was 44 pound ghosty, and it was pixelated picture.
A little bit pixelated.
2000 and I don't know when it was, 2012 or something like that. But yeah,
nice to be on the cover of the Angling Times, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Where'd you catch that from?
From the lake in the Cotswolds that I was involved with. That was a fish that we knew was in there, and it kept growing and growing. It was hilarious because Ian McMillan, bless him, he was desperate to catch that fish, and we did, I think, 2 Sky Sports things on there that he was doing to try and catch this fish. Jerry Bridger caught it from Tracker, who was a guest. He came down and guested on there. I think he caught it. Someone else caught it. Some other sort of known face caught it, and he was desperate to catch. He pretty much caught it. Ian McMillan, we sat there and fished for that, and he taught me how to fish naked chods really years ago. He's like, oh yeah, no, you
like that, didn't he?
Oh yeah. He said you need to do it like this, and he was like. And I skillfully caught that fish. Was it the UK's biggest common then? No, but it looks. That's nothing to do with me, but it looks like it is. It does actually, doesn't it? Yeah. It's just how they wrote it on the cover. No, there was
poor journalism. That
it's poor, isn't it? Yeah. But it makes me look brilliant.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it looks a big fish. But yeah.
No, that's how that is the front cover of what it looked like, and I'm like, that's not the biggest common. But it looks like I've caught the biggest. That's quite easily, you perceive it that way. So again, I'm in the water. So, and that's a mint fish, and that fish had a massive scar on it because someone did drop it when it weighed about 23 pounds.
Right.
And I think the scar's on the other side, and now you wouldn't even know.
Oh,
but
that's good.
I moved it. I put it in another lake for about 3 years and let it heal up, and then put it back in that one, and it did more growing.
We both like a bit of an adventure as well, don't we? By the sounds of it.
Yeah.
I mean, fishing and other adventures. Actually, what was your you've got a picture of a broken down vehicle on a breakdown track? Is that right?
Yeah. Every year, I've got a lake I like to go to. It's too busy now. I used to go every winter and take a mate with me, and we'd go to a lake at Melion every year fishing. And I've taken loads of mates out there over the years. But a good friend of mine, Craig, we decided that just me and him would go every year, because you take a load of mates, and if one of you's catching and the other one isn't, it becomes like they start moaning. So me and him just used to go every year, and I love driving. I could drive, I wouldn't drive a lorry. I'd fall asleep, but I just love driving. And like I say, I was driving around France working when I was a kid, when you didn't have sat nav, so you had a map, and trying to get around Paris with a map when you're a kid is a nightmare. But that particular trip, that truck was about 2 weeks old, and we'd been to Medion. This was on our way home, and it's in the middle of 1,000 acres. It was beautiful, beautiful lakes, about 30, getting on 30 acres. And but it's the week away. He's got wife, kids. It's a week away when we just barbecue every day and just chill out and have a beer, and we catch some big fish, and then come home, and we have the whole lake to ourselves. On the way home, his only job is to put the fuel in the car.
All right.
That is his only job. He sleeps and he snores. There's videos of him snoring. In fact, there's videos of, I think from last year or the year before, where we're in the tunnel, and if he shuts his eyes for 2 seconds, he snores loud, and I'm videoing it. And I do all the driving, and I like doing all the driving. All he does is snore. So I've pulled up to the petrol station. Mate, I've got to run in. I need a wee. So I've run in the petrol station, and he's filled it up, and we've gone on our merry way. And about 6 miles down the road, the truck's cut out. I'm like, this is a brand new truck. This is a bit rubbish. Sat in a lay-by going, it's just not working. It's just... Right, okay, nothing. What's going? No, it won't start. Right, no idea. Absolutely clueless. Now we're luckily we're north of Paris, so you're only we're near Arras. We're an hour and 30 minutes away from Calais, something like that. All right, Craig, did you got the receipt there for the? He's put unleaded in my diesel pickup, and because I drive till
done it many times.
Because I drive until the fuel's nearly empty, and he's filled it right up.
Oh, you've got no chance.
So I was like, okay, well that's that destroyed. He's like, oh no. I was like, well yeah, and I had to go to work. No, not the next day, the day after.
So did you give him a really hard time?
Massively hard time. The other pictures are quite interesting, but
Rightly
I don't think
so.
Massively hard time. It ended up being amazing, because we ended up, and fair play to the French people, we went alongside one of the these phone things, rang them up, and they come and pick you up, and then that guy there took us to Arras, which is a lovely little town which I'd never been to before, with a beautiful square in the middle with restaurants and stuff, and that was about 2 miles away from his garage. And he said, and we told him what happened. He went, right, okay, we can't do it tonight. We have to do it tomorrow. Oh, we have to stay. So Craig's like, oh, I'll pay. We'll stay here. I was like, you right, we will. We're going to find the most expensive restaurant, and I'm going to fill my face, because I was fuming. I was thinking, that's it. That's my work vehicle, brand new. Like I say, I keep them for 3 years and get a new one. So that was.
Oh, you'll be all right. You just pump it out. Don't
yeah. And but I just wanted to rinse him.
Of course.
So we had a hotel on him and a beautiful, massive load of seafood on him. And they charged us next to nothing. They could have rinsed him. And we had a load of beers. And then the next day we went to the garage, and Craig's expecting it to cost whatever, but it cost nothing, a couple €100. And to be fair, they got us on our way, and it was yeah. But I've been going fishing in France every year since before I could drive. And we've had some amazing trips away and caught some amazing fish. But I don't treat it like I've got to catch fish. I've got to do this, because for me it's relax, it's holiday, and I'm going there to fish. But I think I've caught more over the years having that mentality. I think I've caught more fish using the time I've got to actually go fishing for myself. I'm pretty sure I've caught more fish because I don't care like some people. I used to be like that when I was a kid. I used to be like, right, I'd be the one walking around Horseshoe 18 times to find one show. Now I wouldn't be doing that.
It works for some people, doesn't it? It doesn't work for everyone, does it?
Yeah.
But well, hopefully, because you were talking about a trip in July as well, so hopefully, the French will let us in the country, and you'll be able to,
Yeah, if it might have to be a works trip.
Oh, right, okay.
Because you can still go to work with
okay.
fish because it's animal welfare. You see, I might have to go and just make sure everything's okay. But yeah, no, who knows? I mean, it's caused a horrendous amount of. We've just been very lucky to be able to work through the whole of this COVID thing because we are working with fish, and there is, we in the winter we do go to regular places, and without that help from us, certainly on some of the higher stocked waters, they would struggle. So we've been our rights to carry on working, and we've been very obviously sensitive to people's needs, but you have to get on. You know?
Yeah, the show goes on, doesn't it? I mean,
especially any livestock, any farm, any farm and any livestock, you got to carry on working. So, and we've been lucky that we've just been working all the way through it. So yeah, and I know it's a horrible situation, but hopefully there'll be a little bit more normality. But who knows? I mean, we don't know, do we?
No, we don't. But no, fingers crossed anyway. But well, look, thanks for coming on the show. It's been, we've done a different show today, and we've learnt some stuff. And and you
got a penguin and a reel.
I've been playing with this for the whole podcast.
It's
one of those things, isn't it?
You'll be taking that one home.
Yeah.
But no, thanks for coming on the show, Andrew.
No
and
problem, it's been a pleasure.
we'll do a fishing trip hopefully soon as well.
Anytime you want. Yeah, no worries.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.